Welcome to the 2021 Sprint Cup shootout at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo just outside Valencia. Tension absolutely at fever pitch, and it's going to be tight wherever you look. 14 turns knitted into just 4 kilometers, all tight, compact, twisting around. It's going to be super critical. Brands Hatch last time out the second race, led away by Raffaele Marcello Marango, challenging from the outside, very tight as the pack dived into Paddock Hill Bend. It looked so everyone was going through smoothly, but then Benja Ites given a bit of a shove by a fellow Ferrari driver and put into the gravel. Marcello continued to lead at the front of the race, but it was very tight, and there was further contact going down into Surtees for the first time. And unfortunately, Klaus Bachler up the inside of one of the Attempto Racing Audis. And before the lap was out, Adam Christodoulou tipped into a spin as well, Arthur Rougier doing the pushing, and the Ram Racing Mercedes into the gravel on the outside. But behind, it was nip and tuck. It was looking for position around this classic Grand Prix circuit. Up at Druids, often an overtaking possibility, but they're all nice and clean. And then came the pit stops. Timing would be critical. Important not to slip out, most certainly for Dries Van Tor, who got out of the championship leading Audi and handed it to his teammate Charles Weerts, who was immediately on the attack as he went back out onto the circuit and pushed very hard indeed by Lukas Stolz. But it was a fierce one, but the Audi just kept in front despite severe provocation from the outside, held the inside line there and kept on to position. But out front was still the 88 Mercedes. Timo Bogoslawski had taken it over, and the pressure was coming on him, onto the Russian as the race went towards its conclusion. Plenty of pressure from behind. Stolz in there. Up at Druids again, more action. There's the Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari trying to take a move. And again, the classic circuit cars bouncing over the curving. That's at Westfield. Then the drop down into Dingeldale. But the action at the front, it was Bogoslawski. Severe pressure from Stolz, and in behind, Weerts as well. And on the final lap, halfway around, suddenly Bogoslawski slowed. It turns out he had a puncture. So Stolz into the lead, heading off to take his second win of the year, second place and the title, going to Dries Van Tor and Charles Weerts. And for Timo Bogoslawski, what disappointment. He'd come through into the background of the shot any moment now, and he didn't complete with 4 wheels on his car, because there it goes, the carcass is off, dribbling into 6th place. Huge disappointment, but no disappointment at Team WRT. The title is theirs. For Dries Van Tor and Charles Weerts, they already wrapped up the Sprint Cup title at Brands Hatch a few weeks ago, but they want to end the season on a massive high and carry their form from the Sprint Cup over to the final at Barcelona to see if they can add the Endurance Trophy as well.
To end up on a high, we have not the pressure we had compared to last year, for example, but it's nice. It's a nice feeling. We can just come here and enjoy what we do and try to do our best. But like I said, we still want to end up on a high, so we still want to try and win.
New track, I guess, for a lot of people here. But at the end of the day, the objectives remain the same. We want to win the maximum races and to have some podium, as you said. So regardless of the fact we're already champion, we still want to do the best. And the good thing is that we don't have any pressure on us.
The Silver Cup battle is going to be a fierce one at the final round, and Juuso Pohaka and Oscar Tunja have been going really, really well all season for TopSport WRT in their black Mercedes. They come here third on points, and they're tilting, hoping and praying that they can end with the big one in Spain.
We come here to Valencia with still title hopes, which is pretty nice. I think we managed to have quite a hard start of the year, and we managed to get back into the rhythm and get into the points again. So yeah, we will fight here hard, and hopefully with some Spanish and Colombian fans we can have some good weekend, and let's try to finish the best we can.
In Valencia, here you have plenty of overtaking opportunities. Turn 2 is quite good, then the hard braking turn 7, and then the tight section in the second sector, and then for sure last corner is an opportunity. So it will be good fighting here, I'm sure.
Alex Fontana arrives at Valencia with a healthy points lead in the Silver Cup. He knows he's got to keep it on the straight and narrow.
Well, I believe we did a solid job so far. I'm standing alone at the top of the standings, but to be fair, it's something I didn't make myself. I had Arthur Rougier in the first event in Manicure that we did well together in a very last-minute call, and then for most of the season, Ricardo Feller. So I'm alone in points technically, but in theory it was always a teamwork from the beginning. So I believe we had a solid package. We showed that we can be competitive in silver and in overhaul. And as we spoke together in Nürburgring, I said that we should fight for the overhaul first, and then the silver will get a good result as well. So I believe here we are going to do the same, trying to be as good as possible in the overhaul classification, and that will theoretically mean that we are doing well in the silver class as well.
Frank Bird is second in the Silver Cup. He and his teammate Riachiro Tomita have had class wins at Misano and Brands Hatch. He's looking for glory here in Spain.
We've got a little bit of possibility where we're not really looking into it too much, not putting too much pressure on ourselves. We're just going to do the best job we can really and try and replicate the good weekend we had in Brands Hatch. Everything's going down to the last round and the last race, so hopefully we can do a good job and we can come out on top.
Enrique Chavez and Miguel Ramos hope to continue in their fine form in the Pro-Am class after taking a double at Brands Hatch in their Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini, and that brings them here to Spain with a 14-point advantage and 35 points to play for. It's all going to happen here.
It was a perfect weekend, double pole, double win, so now we have a 14-point lead, so let's see how Valencia is for us. Hopefully it's a good track for us and we clinch the title, but let's see, we still a lot of work to do.
I've been here several times. The last time was 6 years ago, but still I know well. I think it will be a nice weekend for us.
Alexander West and Johnny Adam are the outside Pro-Am title shots in their Garage 59 Aston Martin Vantage after taking one win in class and 5 other podium positions through the course of the year in the 8 races so far. But they must beat the Barwell crew to take the title.
Obviously this weekend's final weekend for sprint, and it's all to play for really with the championship, so we really need to put extra pressure on Barwell and see what we could do. But it's been a good season, we've been consistent, but this weekend maximum attack and see if we can capture that championship at the end of on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, this is the first year I'm doing the sprint championship, so that's been a new experience, which has been a lot of fun. I used to do shorter races, I like doing the endurance racing, but it's fun doing the shorter sprint races. So we'll see. We'll certainly, as Donny said, we'll give everything we can this weekend and see how far that takes us.
As we get to the penultimate race of the season, 7 manufacturers still taking a tilt at overall honours in the Fanatec GT World Challenge powered by AWS. Let's take a look at how the points sit as we approach the racing here at Valencia. And leading the way, it's Mercedes, 13,228 points. Second is Lamborghini, and currently third, Audi on 9,897. It's a beautiful sunny morning at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo outside Valencia for the final round of the 2021 Fanatec GT World Challenge Sprint Series. My name is Bruce Jones, I'm joined by John Watson, and it's a much brighter scene greeting us today than it was on Friday when we arrived.
Absolutely glorious. It's a little bit fresher than it was over the previous 2 days. You can see the sky's absolutely clear as anything.
Let's take a look at the grid. Ben Barnicoat in his McLaren will start alongside Lucas Stoltz on the front row. He will be on the left-hand side as the cars go down to turn 1. And the top Silver Cup runners, Oscar Tunio and Dennis Marshall, who really shone in his attempt to racing Audi, form row 2. Timo Bogoslawski and Ezekiel Perez-Companc, all Mercedes, third row of the grid. Then Ricardo Feller, he leads the Silver Cup. He will start from 7th. Charles Wirtz, he's already got the championship in his pocket. He will be 8th. Konstantin Terashenko in his ACA Mercedes and Ulysses Depot in his CMR Bentley. They form the 5th row. Then comes Norbert Siedler, Emil Racing Lamborghini, and Leo Russell, Santalot Racing Audi's Flattered to Deceive. Monster Lapalainen, this is where we find in the bulk of the Lamborghinis. He starts 13, Aurelian Panis, the 2nd of the Santalot Racing Audis. Then the 3rd of the Mercedes from ACA ASP, Petro Umarescu, and Thomas Tuchler, the Garage 59 Aston Martin. Chris Froggatt, he's been going well this meeting. He's sharing with Eddie Cheever again in his Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari, and Stefan Riquelme in the 2nd of the Bentleys. Then Adrian Delina back in the Dynamic Motorsport Porsche. Valentin Pierberg, who's trying to take a tilt for Pro-Am honours. Louis Michiels also in that Pro-Am mix. Julian Apostolos in the Allied Racing Porsche. Then Barwell Motorsports Pro-Am leader Miguel Ramos, Frank Bird for Team WRT. The penultimate row of the grid, Kiko Galbiati joining the Sprint Cup this weekend, starts 25th. Alexander West looking for Pro-Am glory. He's 2nd in the championship in his 188 Aston Martin. Then Benjamin Goethe, no time on the board, so starting from the back. So look for Benjamin. He should have the pace to start overtaking, picking his way up the order. He's not in those Pro-Am battles. He's got to be cautious. Light is out, we're just about to go. So just, I was going to say one word. I hope it's the last time I said all meeting, but it won't be. Track limits, we'll look for those. Now, a clean start down to turn 1. It's a left-hander that feeds the field up the hill. 2 by 2 they go, 27 cars, 13 cars and 13 rows and a bonus car at the back, Benjamin Goethe. But holding that outside line, which is the inside line to the first corner, nailing it, getting his nose in front. Clean start, but it's the second and third rows that meld. The first two nice and tidy down to the first corner. It'll be Barnicoat from Stolz, but will it be Marshall up in? No, it's an Acker Mercedes that's come through. That's Timo Bogoslawski. Good start from the Russian up to third place. Will they all get around turn 1? Well, some cars in the next county, but they are all, the 27 cars went into the corner, 27 cars came out, and the Aston Martin in the middle of the pack, but it's the McLaren leading the way, doing what he did at Brands Hatch. Ben Barnicoat making a break, and Lucas Stolz seeing what he can do. They were helped as Oscar Tunjo got in tight with Dennis Marshall, and Bogoslawski went past the pair of them.
Yeah, Bogoslawski went down the inside into turn 1, managed to make it stick, and done a very good job indeed. Get that car up into third place as the field makes its way through. This is the middle sector of the racetrack out of turn 6. Oh, and contact, and somebody spun. I couldn't see who it was, and there was, well, bodywork. Oh, well, bits of body. You can see bits of car. Further contact just coming into turn.
Is that Alexander West who's gone around? But it was all people rejoining the circuit, coming back across the Allied Racing Porsche. One went wide. You expect we're going to have a full course yellow after that. But Ben Barnicoat, he's made the break at the front. Lucas Stolz tucked in behind. Timo Bogoslawski, that great start up to third place. Dennis Marshall fourth, but he's been passed by Ricardo Feller at the top of the hill. And it is 188. That's dreadful news for them. They were the second place team in the Pro-Am Championship. So Alexander West going nowhere at all. Frustration down in the pit. Safety car, there is the message on the screen. And even then, suddenly I think someone slowed a bit fast, and the Bentley went into the back of one of the Audis.
Yeah, what happened was the safety car, the yellow flag was thrown just at the point cars were entering turn 12. So those that saw it ahead, they got on the brakes, and suddenly everybody behind had nowhere to go. They had to dive to the left, dive to the right. So Ben Barnicoat in the lead, but it is a safety car situation. So there you can see the Mad Panda. How did it get involved in all that? We didn't quite see what kicked this all off. It was on the exit. Look at the headlights gone as well. Yeah. On the exit out of turn 6 into the kink of turn 7.
Now, this is the blast to turn 5 out of 4. Now, let's go up the hill. I think this could be where it's all going to start happening. Further back behind them, when they get to the corner at the top of the crest here, the Allied Racing Porsche went around the outside. Let's look. So Barnicoat leading from Stolz. Third place, Bogoslawski. Neat. Fourth, fifth, all tidy. Right, Tunjo still running with all his headlights. There goes the Allied Racing Porsche on a wide line. So Tunjo hit the back of the driver, and I think in about 5th place.
The Mad Panda. The Mad Panda. The Aston gets sideswiped. And that just somebody spins him around in front of the back. So the Mad Panda got tapped on the rear, and that's what put it out to the left-hand side of the circuit.
And the front-end damage on the Mad Panda car was probably from hitting the barriers once he'd gone off the side of the circuit. I slightly feel for Alexander West. He gained several positions doing what he wanted to do in the Pro-Am class and taken out. Let's just have a little look at his car. Where does the 188 Aston Martin get collected? Oh, Tunjo's going slowly. The Ferrari pushes it into the path of Alexander West. So there was absolutely nothing the Swede could do. Absolutely phenomenal onboard camera work.
Well, there's the Aston being craned away.
So off we go, and again Ben Barnicoat nails it, pulls clear of Lucas Stolz. Timo Bogoslawski all nice and clean at the front, but Ben Barnicoat gained a few tenths of a second. And can he do what he did at Brands Hatch and simply pull away? But the big problem for him is if Lucas Stolz is left free, isn't tackled pretty quickly by Timo Bogoslawski. If Bogoslawski gets on his tail, then the McLaren should be able to escape on its own. But look, Ricardo Feller's looking very busy indeed in 4th place overall. And Charvier's just picking up a place or two there, I would think, at the top of the hill. So not champions for nothing for Team WRT.
Ricardo Feller's going to want to try and get through the number 88 Mercedes as quickly as possible. You can see, really, he's quicker than Timo Bogoslawski in the Mercedes. But whether and up the inside, and that was a door being opened. Wow, Dennis Marshall took the opportunity, didn't make it stick, but look how wide Ricardo Feller had to go coming out of turn 6. Well, that'll be something will get the attention of race director. Right. Up the inside, Charles Vance makes...
Incident between car 90 and car 7 under investigation. Incident between car 90 and 7 in turn 6 at the start lap under investigation.
Okay, that is the contact between the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes driven by Ezekiel Perez Companc and, of course, Oscar Tonio, the Top Sport WRT number 7 Mercedes. Into Nissan warfare. This isn't into Nissan, but let's take a look at the Silver Cup prediction if they go as they are. 107.5 points if Fontana, his car, it'll be all over bar the shouting. But look at this, Fontana is pressing on, well, Fella is pressing on. He'll be handing that car over to Alex Fontana. So Fontana will be sitting in the pits with half a smile on his face, but a bit of concern. Yes, if Fella gets past, he may be able to do it around the outside, but there is no outside, surely, at the crest of the hill, wide. Well, almost in the grandstands. I reckon Dennis Marshall is probably about to pick up 2 places if they carry on like that.
I mean, he has, Ricardo Fella's found his way through, but they find a way through literally so far off the racing line. I don't know whether that will be, again, something that will come under the observation. In the meantime, Fella has gained that position and he's going to pull away literally by the corner. Dennis Marshall now right behind the 88 Mercedes.
I think there's there's a place change in behind because Leo Roussel's decided to go up inside Ulysses Depot, but don't forget, Ulysses in that Bentley's got great speed, but that move's been made. Who's coming through in the background? The orange flash, it's Charles Wirtz. He's passed Julian Apostolos in the Allied Racing. Porsche, the second of the Santalot Racing Audis, is in the mix. They're coming up to speed today. The Audis just were out of sorts through the 2 days, the practice day and the qualifying day, but today a clean track and they're picking off cars at will.
Ben Barnicoat leading by 1.3 seconds. Gone fastest in Sector 1 on this current lap. There's another move from Charles Wirtz. Wow! Well, that's a contact with a Bentley, and that's going to be something. Oh, that was going to be both cars, in fact. So the Audi sideways on the track, the Bentley in the gravel and bedded. So we're going to probably see another, certainly full course yellow, but that's ain't coming out under its own steam. So the Bentley bedded, and I think that will be a penalty for the 32 Audi for a collision that would have been an avoidable one. So Charles Wirtz continues around the circuit. Watch and see, this is the view from the pit grandstand camera. Down the inside, I mean, never in a month of Sundays, and it is a Sunday today, was that ever going to come off. That was the Bentley's corner, and Charles Wirtz made of his judgment.
So full course yellow. The dive came from a long way back at turn 13. It's a long corner.
I mean, that dive came off the 30-meter board.
It did. 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow now.
So full course yellow. Unfortunately for Ulysses Depot, the Belgian racer has been driving very, very well indeed. His car punted around. This isn't the sort of move you normally see from Charles Wirtz, and you can see how frustrated he is now.
I wonder if there's a radio communication between the ship to shore, between Charles Wirtz and the car, or maybe down in the pit lane.
Lights are out. That's good work from the marshals all over again, and Ben Barnicoat. This is the dream circuit for a pace safety car release, because that really tight final corner.
Green flag.
You nail it. The green flag is waved, and again Ben Barnicoat will continue in the lead of the race. Nobody else, of course, can overtake. Just now on the run down to turn 1, past the start-finish line. Now it's all fair game, but Ben Barnicoat's got exactly what he needed. But for Ricardo Fella, this is good news.
Absolutely. Just want to say the man that's going to maybe be the biggest beneficiary of this could be Ricardo Fella, who's been very aggressive in the early phases of the race. Now he's found himself in a position closer to the rear of the Mercedes in second place than he had been when we were under green flag racing. So he's got a second, or maybe actually a third bite of the cherry as they go on to now the 13th lap of this. The pit lane window is going to open up in just over a minute and a half's time. So I just wonder if any or who might be the first to choose to make that pit stop and put in the case, let's say, the 88 Mercedes. Will they bring in Boguslawski, currently in 4th position, but only just under half a second ahead of Dennis Marshall.
This, to my eye, came in too soon.
Well, they've come in, they've done it now, they're in clear air, so they can use that pit stop time and get out and run at their own natural pace. So that will be Dominic Baumann has taken over from Valentin Pierberg.
I saw something move in the back of my eye, but I don't think the pit window was open. It's open now. It opened 10 seconds ago. But
indeed,
that could have jumped so soon.
You might be right, because
this is a car running that's 3rd in the Pro-Am class, and with Adam and West not going to score in this point, would move into 2nd place in the class. Let's see. Now, finally, Dennis Marshall has made a move on Timo Boguslawski. Timo not quite on the form today. The car maybe not quite right beneath him.
So there is the 6 in. So Lucas Stolz gets out, and also the Barbell has come. So a lot of teams have opted to come in early, which is maybe more of a surprise to me. Teams have obviously worked the strategy. They feel what is best for them, as the pit lane is very busy. And look, 3 cars all certainly. Oh, good stop by the TalkSport team to get number 6 turn around, and that's Mauro Engel rolling down the pit lane, so that's going to maybe see a reaction coming from the Jota McLaren team to cover that move.
It could. So very slight gain there. The Alex Fontana Lamborghini lost maybe a second or so through the course of that pit stop.
Race leader is in, so he came in with just 3 minutes of the window open. He could have done one more lap, but they've chosen to bring him in. And it's not about coming in, it's about where will they return, and will they be returning in what would I best describe as the clearest of air available right now. So they're going to be focusing very much on the pace of that number 6 Mercedes-Benz Maro Engel, and that will be, there is Maro Engel. So the driver change is complete, seat belts and all the attachments, radio, and I don't think there's a need of a drinks bottle. So the car, a good stop by the Jota team. So there is turn 13. The McLaren is going down the pit lane. Where will it rejoin? Will the Mercedes? It's going to be close because we haven't even seen the McLaren coming now. So just there's the demarcation line he's going to cross. So it's very nip and tuck. Looks like the Mercedes is going to take the advantage, and it has done. It's gotten ahead.
Well, that just shows how hard Maro Engel's been pressing since he got into the car. He was, it seemed a very, very good pit stop, because certainly gained a second or so on Ricardo Feller's changeover to Alex Fontana. But right now, Ollie Wilkinson's got his work cut out, because this Mercedes from Top Sport is going better and better. Ben Barnicoat, little surprised to find that Mercedes ahead. Probably frustrated, no doubt, by those 2 safety car periods during his tenure in that opening stint. Not only did Maro Engel have his nose in front when Wilkinson rejoined in the McLaren, he is starting to pull away. Now look, 3rd and 4th places, Alex Fontana and Raffaele Marciello closing in. Then in the background, Alex Arco, they've flicked the switch now, and Christopher Haase in their Audis. In fact, 4 Audis in a row. There's Marcus Finkelhock, Sansalot Racing and Robin Freitz, but we know that number 30 car is on a final warning for track limit excess. Now, in the Pro-Am class, how close would you like your runners to be? Andrea Bertolini in the Ferrari is leading the class, and right behind is the championship leader, Enrique Chavez, and they fancy putting this one to bed if they possibly can for Barwell Motorsport. But Andrea Bertolini, building on the work that Louis Michiels did in the first part of the race, leading the way, but you sort of sense the Lamborghinis are coming. So Silver Championship will be decided, because Ricardo Feller cannot overhaul Alex Fontana. He's a teammate, but certainly well clear. That's the prediction at the moment. The big losers were Oscar Tunjo and Yusuf Oaxaca out on the opening lap. They came here 3rd, and Bird and Tamita were starting way down the order. And in fact, the Bird Tamita car, just trying to see where they are at the moment. They're 14th place overall, so they won't be scoring lots of points in the Silver Cup. So as long as the pit stop isn't found to be faulty for the number 14 crew, then the Silver Cup will be theirs. But for Andrea Fontana, as he said in the pre-race interviews, he's actually focusing on overall of everything rather than the Silver Cup class. It's easier to focus on the front of the race and see what points you accrue, but through the course of the season, the Swiss racer has accrued plenty of points for the silver driver lineups. Now, in the prediction in the Pro-Am class is Miguel Ramos and Enrique Chavez. Their car is almost making a move to try and take the lead of the class down at turn 4, but if they finish 2nd, they'll be 15.5 points ahead of Pierberg and Baumann. Of course, they were scuppered by getting that puncture that caused an extra pit stop. Yeah,
contact with the McLaren and the Lamborghini, 2nd and 3rd, and almost how did Marcello manage to miss the McLaren?
Through the Sansalot Audi is going to come through and gain 3 positions in the blink of an eye. So that's Christopher Haase, too experienced not to take that opportunity. But the contact with down the inside went Fontana. Now, did both of them get going? We know that Marcello got going again. He's in 3rd place, challenging 2nd. Well, the Lamborghini did, and unfortunately, the McLaren has not.
Look, how far back can you expect? But Ollie Wilkinson was slow.
He was a bit ponderous, wasn't he?
He was, but that's no excuse for making contact. How Marcello didn't hit the McLaren on that left rear, one will never know.
So let's take a look. Maro Engel leading this race now by 11.4 seconds. Christopher Haase up into 2nd place. Raffaele Marciello into 3rd. Alex Fontana across the start-finish line after recovering from that spin in 4th place. Alex Arca in 5th. Marcus Finkelhock in 6th. Robin Freitz, the number 30 Audi, silent through this race, works his way up to 7th. Jules Gounon in 8th.
Is up the inside. Enrique Chavez, can he get it done coming on to pit straight? The Ferrari has the advantage because it is slightly more open exit, gets the acceleration. Chavez is not going to give up. He wants to get ahead of the Ferrari. He wants to sign up and conclude his deal in this category for the 21 season.
Drive-through penalty to car 14, causing a collision. Okay. Drive-through penalty to car 14, causing a collision.
Well, the moment we expected. Alex Fontana leading the Silver Cup class In fact, it's in his pocket, but now he's not going to pick up the full run of points. He's going to drop down the order for causing the collision that the battle for second place pitched out Ollie Wilkinson, and there 0-0-1. That's the Silver Cup position flashing on the windscreen. He's got to report to bits. He's not taking it this time around, though. Maybe the team hasn't quite got the message to him. And the move had finally been done at turn 13, but the power's down slightly sooner on the Ferrari, side by side. But the inside line for turn 1, as long as he can keep his nose there, will go to the Lamborghini. But Andrea, plenty of punch in that Ferrari down the straight, is going to be able, surely, John, to close that move off.
The only thing was Bertolini was very wide on the exit, maybe gained small advantage, but enough of an advantage to keep him ahead into turn 1.
So let's take a look. John, call this move.
I mean, it's almost, you can say that's as near to side-by-side as you can get. Now, the Ferrari has run wide because the Lamborghini's coming from left to right on the racetrack, but it's by the Ferrari getting its power down, even though it's way off the racetrack, it gives them that slightly better drive off the final turn, and enough of a drive. Maybe the Ferrari is just inherently that little bit quicker in top speed anyway. Oh, what's that going around? Is that
pit stop car 163 under investigation? Pit stop car 114, no further action.
Right, which of the Audis was it? Well, it's going to be Winkoch. Surely there'll be contact here at this point. Robin Freit's going up the inside. Was there enough inside? Well, the simple answer is, in the case of Winkoch, no, there wasn't. At turn 11, around he goes. Not far now, around the final lap. Only 2 more corners to go for Maro Engel. Lucas Stoltz will be smiling down in the TalkSport WRT garage. They have had a really, really good run. Started from the outside of the front row. Looks as though the McLaren had the legs on them, but they, as a duo, they are so, so strong. This is going to be their 3rd Sprint Cup win of the year. They won the 2nd race at Brands Hatch. They've done it again. So great run from Stoltz and Engel. They'll be about 8 seconds clear. He's backed it right off, chasing in 2nd place. Christopher Haase, he's going to take 2nd for Sansalot Racing House. Audi, and in the background Raffaele Marcello recovers, but he's starting right at the back in race number 3. He takes 3rd place. Alex Arca will come home 4th, and just behind him will be Robin Freitz, but I think there may be a penalty coming Robin's way.
Certainly that'll be investigated. Whether there will be a decision against Robin Freitz or not, it depends on other camera angles. It looked like he was pretty much side by side with Marcus Winkelhock. It's very difficult to see from that camera angle that we looked at it initially, but here's the big battle that's been going on pretty much all the way through since these drivers took over their respective cars, and looks to me as if Bertolini has once again shown how much value there is in experience over out-and-out pace.
Absolutely so. So again, you didn't expect him to crack under pressure. The pressure was intense, but victory in Pro-Am on the track to the car in 19th place overall. Andrea Bertolini by a whisker, by just under half a second from Ramos, but points in the bag in the Pro-Am Championship for Ramos and Chavez. Chavez chasing all the way through the second half of that race, but it was entertaining, and certainly kept Bertolini on his toes. So let's go down and hear from our winners, the man who started, Lucas Stoltz and Maro Engel.
Congratulations to you boys, a fantastic win. Luca, you set up a great first stint and then handed over in the pit stop at the perfect moment.
Yeah, definitely. We decided to undercut the McLaren, but yeah, the boys did a massive job in the pit. So congrats to them. It was really fast. I think it was 3rd fastest pit stop. So big progress. Yeah, really good race for us. And then it was Mauro overtaking McLaren. Was a bit tight, but yeah, really good race for us.
And Mauro, of course, pulled out a fantastic gap. I think almost 10 seconds there.
Yeah, I think we were helped a little bit by what was going on behind, but no, big congrats and big thank you to the team. I mean, they gave us, first of all, they gave us an amazing car, handling beautifully, and then a perfect pit stop and strategy. And it was tight at the pit exit, and had a bit of oversteer and sideways action going on as we were side by side, but managed to hold it. And yeah, just really happy with the win. So yeah.
So let's look at the final results. 8.8 seconds to the good for Lucas Stoltz, who started, and Maro Engel, who finished. And Leo Roussel and Christopher Haase, I sort of felt a good race was coming for Sansalot Racing, but they grabbed the moment, gaining 3 places when there was a contact that tipped the McLaren out of 2nd place. That didn't finish at all. Timo Bogoslawski and Raffaele Marcello coming through to 3rd place. And Dennis Marshall and Alex Arca delighted they picked up that 4th place. Great run for them. Benjamin Goethe and Robin Freitz from stone last, 27th up to 5th. That is quite a run. Completing the top 6, Petru Oborescu and Jules Gugnon. So the German national anthem for the drivers, but most importantly for their team, for TalkSport WRT, who really have got their grasp very firmly around the GT racing scene after coming across from a background of rallying. So that's the podium ceremony for the Silver Cup class. The best place of those cars finished in 4th place overall. Alex Arca brought it home. Dennis Marshall kicked it off. And don't forget, it seems a long time ago, John. It was just over an hour ago. They started from 4th on the grid, but with so many sort-outs on the opening lap, surviving it all was a good thing. So that's the first Pro-Am class win this year in the Sprint Cup for Bertolini and Michels. No wonder they're smiling behind their masks. You can just see the wrinkles around their eyes. A job well done, but also the fact, John, they had to fight for it. All the more satisfying when you've really got to just show your mettle. Well, it's countdown time for the start of the second race, the last race of the sprint series of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe for 2021. The stage is set at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo outside Valencia. My name is Bruce Jones. It's 37 degrees. John Watson, who's sitting alongside me, not in our commentary box, but that's track temperature. It's getting warmer all the time.
Well, ideal conditions, to be honest. A lot warmer than it was a few hours ago when we had the first of these 2 sprint races, and what an interesting race that turned out to be. And victory went to the Mercedes-AMG Team Talk Sport. Great drive by Luca Stoltz and Marlo Engel, and of course massive disappointment for the McLaren Jota team, who got taken out in an incident that of course was replayed on screen just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, and for Talk Sport, the WRT car is starting on pole position. But let's go down and hear from Ricardo Feller and Alex Fontana on the grid. The temperature's high, and for them, Fontana is still looking to win the Silver Cup.
Boys, the first race was somewhat dramatic, certainly towards the end there, and all you need to do now to take the Silver Cup is score 2 points. What's the plan?
To score 2 points. Quite easy, no? Yeah, we try our best. I mean, it's a race. For sure, the starting position is not ideal, but I'm pretty sure that Alex will have a great start, and we will come a bit to the front, and then we need to bring these points home.
Absolutely. Alex, you were pushing so hard in race 1.
Yeah, it was a bit not my brightest moment, I would say, especially since I absolutely didn't want it to do any overtake in that case. Ollie went a bit deep and he tried to come across to have a good exit, and he came across a bit more than what I expected. So I already knew there was no chance to pass him, but I happened to be too much forward with my nose, and it was a bit unfortunate. So I apologize to them, especially because I was behind. But was absolutely not what I wanted to do. In that case, there was an overall podium to be taken, and so I pushed a bit in that direction, especially since he started to drop out and he didn't help us out for the Silver Cup. But I think this year with Ricardo, we always try to do both overall and silver together. This time it didn't really pay off, but we have 1 race to go, and hopefully we can put it all together.
Absolutely. Thank you very much to both of you. And aspiring Kimi Raikkonen, we'll leave you alone for interviews for now. Come for a walk with me, because we can just head down this way and find our Pro-Am title contenders, SRO Motorsport, who are just a few rows in front of us. The 188 Aston here that had a terrible time in the first race today, and that's sadly dashed the hopes for them in this cup. Here's Miguel Ramos, in fact, who is with the 77 Bar World car. Miguel, can we just interrupt you? Sorry, Alex, we'll just take him for a second. Celebrating your birthday, of course, a great way to do it. And you just need to score 1 point, and you just really need to finish the race in this one to take the title, right?
Yes, it's true. Hopefully we finish without problems. That's our goal, and see if there is no big problems on the race. The last race was very problematic, so let's see if everybody has their mindset clean, and we can do a safe race. That's our objective, is to finish and try to win the championship. But first we need to finish.
There's a lot of traffic ahead of you going into that first corner.
Yeah, it's especially corner number 2. So it's everybody arrives there very fast. So it's it's a question of luck also. So let's cross our fingers and see if everything goes well.
Fingers are crossed. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the support.
So there is the scene down on the grid, and for some of those drivers, they just have to deal with small numbers. 2 points is all that needs to be landed by Alex Fontana, but he is starting a long way back on the 11th row of the grid, so it's quite hard to keep out of trouble for him in the 14 Emil Fry Racing Lamborghini. That's in the Silver Cup class, and just to reiterate, in Pro-Am, the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini of Enrique Chavez and Miguel Ramos, birthday boy, 50 today, just need 1 more point. Stay out of trouble. We heard, John, from Alex Fontana saying he's had no plans to do any overtaking and then just got a little bit excited and saw half a gap, and the racer in him unfortunately chimed in. He got his nose a little bit in front.
Well, let me be cynical and let me just suggest that he's had a significant amount of time between the incident, which is about 2.5 hours ago, to now, to refine his thoughts. And clearly he didn't do it deliberately, but it was a misjudgment, and it was a fairly sort of fundamental one. There was no need to stick your nose in, and as you mentioned, the McLaren was taking a slightly different entry into the corner, which opened up that gap down the inside into turn 8. But it was always going to be a closing gap. And once you put yourself into that, and how many times have we seen it from Formula One all the way down to the lowest single-seater, karting, whatever. Never put your nose into a closing gap unless you want to have your nose cut off, and that's exactly what happened. But the apology came, but it doesn't offset the damage done, not just to the car, but to the team. They were working very hard. They got that car on pole position with Ben Barnicoat. There was a defence, obviously, coming from Oliver Wilkinson, but he didn't deserve to be knocked out of the race and then have Alex Fontana able to continue. No. So he's starting back in the 11th row of the grid. A lot of work to be done.
Well, we've heard from some of the Lamborghini drivers. Let's go and grab another one from Albert Costa.
Albert, you're kind of a local. It's not your home circuit. It's hot today. It's going to be a fun one. Starting this race, we've already seen a huge amount of drama in the first race. What do you expect?
Everything can happen. Actually, my race was a mess because I was P12 after the pit stop, and then I was P7, and then I passed fringe. We had a contact. I went in the gravel. I came back P9, and then I recovered to P7. So it was a crazy race. Everything is possible. It's a good starting position. The car is running well. Everything can happen because there is a lot of some programs. And it will be cool, but we need to, the target, to be honest, is a podium. It's the target. Mercedes is stronger than us. So I will do my best and give the best result to the team and Lambo.
And enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you.
Well, better chance for achieving that with Norbert Siedler because they're starting from 5th on the grid, and you really do need to be at the sharp end, the pointed end of the grid, John, here. It's so hard to overtake.
Yes, it is. I mean, starting in the 3rd row of the grid here in Valencia isn't a bad deal. It allows you to get into turn 1 in relatively safe company because those around you are going to be primarily all the other pro drivers in this race. The danger part is always in the middle to the back of the field where you get this sort of bottleneck going into turn 1. In fact, at the start of the opening lap, we had 4 cars wide going into turn 1. Luckily, while the track demarcation is outside that, there's a big concrete area to allow drivers to give themselves some escape area before then you get into the gravel trap. It's not there to be used to your advantage, it's there to be used for a force majeure situation.
Now, how's this for a qualifying position for a driver in the Pro-Am class? 4th on the grid, that's the pit wall side. Valentin Pierberg is showing with Dominic Baumann. It's Dominic who'll be starting, who set this time. They are absolutely outside the Pro-Am challengers now. They lost their chance with a puncture in the first race, but they could end the season on a high. Whether they stay in the top 10, but starting 4th is a big opportunity for them. So we got the front row of Mauro Engel and Jules Gougnot, and working our way back down the grid. It's a real mix of cars, but you know, it does really feel if you're not in the first 2 rows, then your chances of overall victory are going to be very, very slim. Right now, it's a Mercedes-Benz front 2 rows of the grid lockout, and then behind that, you've got a Porsche, Dynamic Motorsport, and then Albert Costa, who we know was always very speedy, put it that way, at the start of a race. But it's that 4 Mercedes-Benz front 2 row lockout going to make it difficult for those behind to find a way through, assuming that those front 4 runners behave themselves on the opening laps. Well, in many categories, at many circuits, patience could be a thing, but really I feel at this circuit almost more than any other, again, quite similar to Brands Hatch, you've got to strike early on. But of course, we've got the drivers starting in reverse order in each of the cars. Those that started race 1 will be second out in race 2. For both races, the number 30 Team WRT Audi has started from stone last, and it worked its way up to 5th place in the opening race. So that was quite extraordinary. That was a case of patience, but attacking every single instance. Yes, but also because you're right at the very tail of the field, you get to see what's taking place, and you can then take the appropriate avoiding action. Nevertheless, once you start to get into the meat and veg of this race, which is going to be the heart of the race, really, that's when you have to be on your toes, keep your eyes open, be alert. A little puff of smoke coming out from the rear of the Dynamic Motorsport Porsche when they fired it up. So I don't expect that to be a particular problem. But that's one that could feature early on. Christian Engelhardt starting that, and he was one of the stars of qualifying yesterday. But every single time the cars have been on track, the conditions have been different. And though it's bright sunshine here outside Valencia today, it was raining last night with some pretty spectacular overnight electrical storms, John. So again, a different racing circuit for them.
Yes, I mean, the track has had that one-hour sprint race. There's been another support event here, so the track has had a certain amount of rubber laid down. But the key is the track temperature has gone up by a considerable margin. Over about 8, it was 19.3 Celsius for race 1. It's now 37.1. So that's a big spike in terms of increase in temperature. Again, it will have a bearing on how these cars feel in relation to where they were some 2.5, 3 hours ago.
Okay, as the cars are flagged off, let's take a look at the grid. It's Mauro Engel starting from pole position. That's the car that won at Brands Hatch. It's won here, and it may get 2 wins as it's changed as the field is flagged away. This is the first visit for the GT World Challenge to Valencia, and it's certainly a very fun racing circuit. Brilliant to be able to see almost all of it from the top of the main pit building.
I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed the fact that it's a really excellent venue.
Yeah, it has been, and so eyes open. Very few of the drivers have actually ever driven here before. John has, that was a long, long time ago. But right, look at the cars as they go around on the formation lap. And will we have all 27 at the end of the opening lap? Because halfway around the first lap in the opening race, we had a whole collision up at the top of the hill, a couple of cars pitching each other around. But this is the grid. These are the ones who are most likely to escape. Mauro Engel from pole, Jougunion alongside, so that's Top Sport, WRT and ACA ASP, and it's still Mercedes on the second row. Jim Pla, the leading silver driver, along with Dominic Baumann from the Pro-Am class. He's very much the pro in that car in 4th overall. Christian Engelhardt waving the flag for Porsche in 5th, and Albert Costa on home ground. Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini starts 6th. Then comes Rick Breukers, hoping for a better run for Mad Panda Motorsport, because that was involved in the first lap collision last time around. Yusuf Pohaka also out of the race in that first lap collision. Oh dear, they're drawn close to each other. Eddie Cheever back in the Sprint Cup, and he qualified an excellent night for Sky Tempesta Racing in his Ferrari Arthur Rougier, again with Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini. Oliver Wilkinson knocked out of 2nd place in the second half of the first race. Will be looking to finish this one. Has to work forward. Nelson Pansutici alongside. Then Dries Van Tor, yes, him, champion, down in 13th place alongside Christopher Haase, so 2 Audis together. Enrique Chavez hoping to lock out the Pro-Am title this afternoon. Need just 1 point. He's 15th, and Klaus Bachler, the Allied Racing Porsche, in 16th. Then Marcus Finkelhoff, look for him coming forward for Santalot Racing. And Nicolas Kiaillard didn't get to finish the first race in his Garage 59 Aston Martin. The sister car, Johnny Adam, will start that from 19th in the Pro-Am class. And Matthias Drudi, well down the grid by his standards in the Attempto Racing Audi. And then comes the sister car from Alex Arca, and that finished the first race in 4th place. He shares with Dennis Marshall. Alex Fontana, well, that's a long way down for a driver, but he just needs 2 points to clinch the Silver Cup. Then Raffaele Marciello down in 23rd. No wonder I struggled over his name. Don't expect him back there. Pierre-Alexandre Jean alongside, and bear in mind Marciello was fastest almost every session before qualifying. Then Andrea Bertolini, of course, a Ferrari. Riichiro Tomita, he's the outside shot in the Silver Cup. He's in the penultimate position. And Robin Fries, well, he's going to be racing from front, from the very back. But John, Raffaele Marciello right at the back of the field. Extraordinary.
Yeah, that was the surprise of the qualifying session. 23rd on the grid. Terrible.
Well, we're going to see 27 cars come around that tight final corner. They'll be looking at the lights, and on the side away from the pit wall, the white Mercedes has got its nose in front, waiting for the lights to green. The full acceleration now. The rumble of those 4 Mercedes. They're going down in grid order, so it's Engel from Gounod, from Pla, from Baumann. Baumann just got his own battle to fight. He's in the Pro-Am class, but he's starting up 4th. Tidy down into turn 1, but it's normally the exit. Well, a few cars using all the concrete there. That's the reason it's down there. But the pole man up into the first turn, well, the second turn, the first tight turn, the top of the hill, that's turn 2, in the lead of the race. So Mauro Engel, a couple of cars running a little bit wide, including the Allied Racing Porsche, up at turn 2. Down the hill they go. And this is what I love on the opening lap. Looking down, this is about 10th position, because we can look back to the McLaren that started 11th, and Ollie Wilkinson trying to keep out of trouble, but equally trying to gain a place here or there. And now with John, we come to turn 6, where there was trouble on the opening lap in the first race. Are we going to be lucky this time around?
Well, the McLaren is trying to stick his nose up alongside the Santalot Audi. It got sort of wrong-footed going through turn 5. It was on the outside, but wow, look at this. Albert Costa sliding down the inside, trying to follow Christian Engelhardt. Gets ahead. Does he get ahead of Dominic Baumann or not? I think he does, yes.
He does. So Baumann started 4th. He's gone down to 6th, but he's not in the battle with his other front runners. He's running in the Pro-Am class. So a little bit of caution, but that's Albert Costa in Spain racing as he does, gaining positions. But a good move from Engelhardt to go up into 4th place. But the first 3, it's Engel, Gounod, Pla, and now the Porsche of Engelhardt up into 4th place. Riding on board the 88 ACA ASP car, Raffaele Marcello, down the order, but he will be coming forward a little bit, one would think, but he's got an awful lot to climb. He's not even in the top 20, he's just got into top 20 graphic.
He's in territory he's never been in before. He's never started so far back in a sprint race and had to find his way through. Now, this is a super little racetrack, but it's a very tight one to find your way through the field. He will make certain amount of progress because the field that he's in right now are not normally, but those races he would ordinarily be ahead. So tight going into turn one. The Bentley did it just about get clear of the back of the Lamborghini, so up into turn two.
Well, that was Arthur Rougier going very wide.
Contact, and there we go. It was inevitable. It was going to happen. It was three cars.
Well, that was the conclusion of what was happening. Arthur Rougier went wide, and not long afterwards, unfortunately, clattering the Ferrari of Eddie Cheever. Round they went, and oh dear, and the Bentley of Nelson Panciatici. So we'd only just got onto lap 2. Will they be cleared up, or will we need a full course yellow? I think with those two cars stricken there, the 114. And also limping in, one of the Mercedes limping in, is that Marcello?
It is the 88.
Has he got damage? Is there any damage on that car?
There was tar smoke, I think, coming from a body rub. I'm not sure, just need to see again. But surely there is the Lamborghini. They're going to have to full course yellow and now safety car to get those cars cleared, and also to get whatever residue of carbon fibre that will be on the racetrack up at turn 2. So there is a safety car. It's going to have to go like the Clappers, or on the other hand. So it's the 108 and the 114.
And also, let's take a look. They ran wide, John, out of turn 1. Just waiting for this group. Here they are now. Rougier so wide. The Bentley and Nelson Panciatici inside him, and inside the three of them. The two of them is Eddie Cheever minding his own business, and it's the car coming from behind. It's the Audi.
It's the 32 Audi.
Oh dear, it's the 32.
Dries van Thor.
Dries van Thor up the inside.
So
okay.
4 cars. I thought there were 4 cars involved, but that was a dive down the inside from Van Thor. So maybe one might say he was the party that kicked the whole incident off. As we look back and see what's going on, this is the view. Oh yeah, you can see just there was.
Well, this is an extraordinary meeting, John. Dries van Thor and Charles Weerts both peerless through the championship, already locked it up, and Charles did a completely uncharacteristic move in the first race, and now this time maybe it's because they're racing in uncharted areas, but unfortunately Van Thor definitely he saw the 3 cars in front of him having their moment, thought there was a moment for him that wasn't up into turn 2, and the Nelson Panciatici coming in. Well, if you can spot a panel on that car that isn't bent, you're doing better than I am.
I tell you, bits of carbon fibre are flying off around the circuit, not just up at turn 2. So the circuit's going to have to be inspected, because those bits of carbon fibre will need to be cleared. And there's the rear of the Audi, the right rear, obviously the puncture, but maybe a suspension damage as well. So Dries van Thor is pulling that car off the track, and I don't know where he's going to take it. Certainly he's coming into the pit. It's coming into the pits, it is, in fact. So what a disaster for the 32, the championship winners of 2 championships this year, looking to go forward to Barcelona and make it 3 with the Endurance Cup. So that will be yes, I think you might be up to see the headmaster for a good old wigging on that one. That was certainly something I didn't expect to see Dries van Thor do.
No, well, extraordinary day. So we've got Raffaele Marcello just trying to see if he's dropped down the order. He's in 19th place. He hasn't in particular, but they did look as though there was some body rub on a tyre. For Dries van Thor, he's coming in to get some books to put down the back of his trousers before he goes to see the headmaster. For Mauro Engel, Jules Gounon and Jim Pla, 3 Mercedes at the front of the field, controlling things, but of course the safety car will be picking them up. And some disappointed drivers there for Arthur Rougier. He ran wide, thought he'd managed to get it back on the track. I feel quite sorry for Eddie Cheever Jr. because he was keeping out of trouble, and he got clattered by at least a couple of cars going up into turn 2. He was the one who didn't run wide at turn 1.
He was the one that was on the inside. Then he got the coming right down even tighter into turn 2 was the Audi. So he was the meat in that Bentley Audi sandwich, and had nowhere to go, and just got pinched by both cars.
So there may be words between some of the drivers in the pit lane. I certainly saw someone striding down the pit lane, like Nelson Panciatici. He certainly was an injured party in that. So let's look at the order. Behind the safety car that's picked up the field, it's the leader from pole position, Mauro Engel. Second place, Jules Gounon with the red nose, the orange nose for Jim Pla on his Mercedes. Then the first of the 2 Porsches, Christian Engelhardt in 4th, Albert Costa in the 163 Lamborghini in 5th. And Dominic Baumann, who started 4th but doesn't need to protect that position, he is 6th in the black SPS Automotive Mercedes. Well, that's a very quick tidy up. So as Arthur Rougier's car only now is being hoisted away, the safety car will be in at the end of this lap. And just looking in the background, I can't see any debris on the track. Obviously that was an issue too that needed clearing.
There was bits of debris I saw coming off the Bentley as it was coming through. I think it might have been turn 6 into, or turn 7 into turn 8. So we need to have a look and see as we go back to repeat the start.
Well, here's a replay of the start. It was very tidy, well read by Mauro Engel, equally well read from the outside the front row from Jules Gounon, Jim Plat. First three nice and safe. Dominic Baumann making it for Mercedes into turn 1 first, but he was to be attacked soon thereafter by Christian Engelhardt in the white and black Porsche that's running down the start-finish straight in 5th place. He would soon make the move, but Dominic Baumann's in the Pro-Am class, so he didn't mind shedding places to people who weren't in the Pro-Am class. Into turn 1, it was tidy. And again, this front-on view, John, very, very tidy indeed. And again, a good start from the driver from pole. We saw it from Ben Barnicoat, and now in the second race, exactly the same from Mauro Engel.
Yeah, Mauro Engel had to get across from left to right to get his entry into turn 1 and not be compromised. So again, behind the safety car, Jules Gounon. Why did he run so wide coming out of turn
safety car, lights
11?
Yes, you do wonder, behind the safety car, it should all be on the straight and narrow. But this circuit, the 14th and final corner, they're just going through turn 12 now, is very tight indeed. So it enables the driver who's at the head of the bunch, who's going to control the restart, to have nobody getting a jump on him. He won't plant the power until the second he thinks is wise. And for Jules Gounon,
green flag.
And Jim Plat, the green flag will be greasing them when they come round, but wait for it, and then the throttle will be planted now by Mauro Engel. Off he goes, first, second, third, line astern, and in behind the Porsche in 4th place. Christian Engelhardt's read it very well. He's starting to shake up Jim Plat down to the first corner they go. I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a move, but he's certainly looking very feisty indeed.
Team, Jim Plat trying to get a bit of temperature into the tires, at the same time slightly delaying Christian Engelhardt, maybe upsetting his rhythm as we go back up into turn 2.
Well, this is where the clash was this time around. Of course, they're in more ordered control because they went into the first corner line astern from each other.
And great progress by the 30 Audi. That's done very well. So, yes, Robin Vriends is up 2. Well, he was when he came across the line in 18th position. He's already made up another position. So he's on it as the leaders come up through now into turn 6.
He's on it, as you'd expect. He started 27th. We've had 3 cars eliminated from the race. That's Dries Van Toor, Nelson Pancetici and Arthur Rougier, and Eddie Cheever shoved down to the back. So probably in effect about 3 or 4 places gained by Robin Vriends as he picks his way up the order, up to 18th. 9 places gained, but probably about 4 or 5 handed to him on a plate. But even so, places gained, and that's what really counts. So Mauro Engel starting to ease away. Jules Gounon will certainly hang on as long as he possibly can, and I think Jim Plat is going to become tied up by Christian Engelhardt getting right onto his tail in that dynamic Porsche. There it is, car number 54. And in behind Albert Costa, getting a bit of pressure from Dominic Baumann, tiny bit of a gap. Then Yusuf Pohaka, who didn't even get to take part in the first race because his teammate Oscar Tunjo taken out at turn 6 on the opening lap of the race, and that was a performance that was not of their making, and it took them out of the Silver Cup rankings.
So Dominic Baumann comes onto pit straight currently in 6th place. Yusuf Pohaka behind him. So Baumann really, as you pointed out, not really in this race. His principal competitors are going to be Enrique Chavez, who's done in 12th, and Johnny Adam in 13th, and then Andrea Bertolini running in the last of those 4 cars. And he's just now dropped 1 place onto 24th because Eddie Cheever in the Ferrari that was the meat in the sandwich is finding himself back at the races.
Well, Alex Arca running very, very wide off the circuit, and Klaus Bachler as well at turn number 1. That puts them on the outside line for turn 2, and if you stay on the outside, you get put on the painted stuff, as we see Arca having done to him in the 99 Attempto Racing Audi. Ooh, a little bit of a sort out behind, and in fact there, Robin Vriends lost ground.
Yes,
he was pushed to the outside.
Yeah, that was 4 cars trying to get into turn 4, and there's not really room for 4 cars to do that. So on board with the 88 that we thought got touched. I thought there was certainly a body rub coming from him, but Raffaele Marcello has regrouped, is in 19th position, running, and he was running behind Robin Vriends. Robin Vriends not in sight. Where is he? No, I don't know where he's gone. He's fallen back again.
Yeah, Vriends lost 2 places down at that sort out between turns 4 and 5. So he gained with one hand and he's now lost with the other. But the person who's gaining all the time is Mauro Engel, trying to make his break. It was a 0.6 of a second over Jules Gounon, but Jules looking pretty handy in second place.
I'm just going to say Jules Gounon's just gone fastest overall sector 1 and sector 2. So purple for the Frenchman who's closed that gap. It was just over half a second when they came across start finish line, and I would say he's about as close to the rear of the lead Mercedes as you can be without overtaking. So back onto start finish straight. What's the gap when they come across the line? Well, it was virtually the same, fractions of a second difference. McLaren pulls out, and why does he pull out there? Because he wasn't going to overtake, unless he's got a problem with maybe trying to get some cool air into those brakes, or a bit more cool air into the radiator.
He did exactly that last time, and again with that long head-on shot you couldn't see how close he was, and clearly not close enough then, not close enough now, but I'm sure there's a reason you wouldn't willfully lose a slipstream from another car in front of you. So nose to tail pretty much from front to back, but the best result that Jules Guignon's had this season was a 3rd place in the second race at Brands Hatch, and maybe, just maybe, he might be able to equal that today. But he would love, ever competitive son of Jean-Marc, great Formula 3000 racer of yore, to take a win this year. So he's in the right place, but we know the gold standard is Maro Engel balanced with Lucas Stoltz. They've won a number of races now this year, 3 races out of the 9 races held so far. They've had bad luck as well, but just maybe this could be a day for Jules Gugnon.
Well, just behind that, you've got Christian Engelhardt, followed by, as ever, the exciting to watch Albert Costa, who was very wide in the exit of turn 6. So Barman is the car that's running behind the Lamborghini, but of course, as we keep repeating, he's not in that race, and Costa's not really able to get on terms with the Porsche. Christian Engelhardt giving Jim Pla quite a bit of a workout as they come through turns 11 and 12, and then into this final long 13 that leads into the apex of turn 14.
So Jules Gugnon, by the way, will be handing over to Petru Umberescu, who will put Petru, the Romanian racer, into uncharted territory, whereas Jim Pla will be handing over to Konstantin Tereschenko. I'm just talking about the ACA ASP Mercedes in 2nd and 3rd positions. But when you balance those as driver pairings versus Stoltz and Engel, who are sharing the lead TalkSport WRT Mercedes, you have to say the advantage is with TalkSport WRT.
Just interestingly, on that last lap, the fastest second sector was actually recorded by Christian Engelhardt, running in 4th place in the Porsche, still trying to get on terms with Jim Pla in the 3rd place ACA ASP Mercedes. So one is beginning to wonder, is that 3rd place Mercedes acting as the stopper to further progress, from the Porsche in 5th place or 4th place, and Albert Costa in the Lamborghini in 5th, who this time is more controlled as he exits out of turn 6.
He is, and in fact, well, let's take a look at the Silver Cup prediction. If they finish as they are, well, it'll be a clear championship victory for Alex Fontana. He's down the order in the race today. Jim Pla and Konstantin Tereschenko's a 3rd in the race. They're 2nd in the championship, but there are only 16.5 points available, and so that's enough. Alex Fontana will have this done, but he's got to finish the race. He blotted his copybook in the first race today. Up front, though, yeah, Gugnon is starting to go away. And I noticed that 2 of the 3 circuit sectors are, well, until Gugnon suddenly has gone fastest in the 1st and the 2nd sector, they did belong to Engelhardt, so he's got to get past Pla to show the dynamic Porsche's true speed.
Yeah, that's the 2nd time so far on lap 8 that Gugnon's had the fastest times, and not just fastest, but the purple sectors in those 1st and 2nd sectors. So again, he has got the pace, but he's only, he's 0.8 of a second behind, as down to 0.7 of a second behind. Pla 1.3 further, then 0.6 of a second between 3rd and 4th, and there you see 4th and 5th and 6th place coming into turn 1.
Yeah, all that can be asked of Jules Gugnon is to keep Maro Engel on his toes. 0.7 of a second between the pair of them. But it's interesting there, the way the first 2/3 of that belong to Gugnon. Now he's just looking back at Raffaele Marcello.
Speed in the pit lane of car 108 under investigation. Speed in the pit lane of car 108 under investigation.
Okay, that was the Bentley of Nelson Panciatici. I think he was probably fairly angry when he came in, but with bits of his cars flapping around, might have been some vague mitigating circumstances, but I fear that would be anger for the 108 crew. They're parked in the garage.
I would have thought the last thing he was going to worry about was getting whatever.
Drive-through penalty to car 108 for speeding in the pit lane. Drive-through penalty to car 108 for speeding in the pit lane.
But 108
is retired.
One assumes is retired, is still in the pit. So
although the car 108 is in the pit lane, I'm announcing the drive-through because there are behavior points that are added to the penalty.
Okay, clear message from Alain Adam there, so that makes it absolutely clear the car is out of the race, but misbehaving in the pit lane is one of the cardinal sins in racing, John.
It is, along with a rule book as thick as you've ever seen, so it is a rule that's there. If it's disobeyed, then there's a penalty to be paid. So race leader continues now to go on to his 9th lap, still got Jules Gugnon 0.7 of a second behind. What's going to happen is when the driver changes take place, Jules Gugnon is going to hand over to Petru Umberescu, but the number 6 car is going to hand over Maro Engel to Lucas Stoltz as we go side by side into turn 1. And the 2 Pro-Am cars, well,
12th and 13th.
Yes.
Johnny Adam has got his nose just in front of Enrique Chavez, so that's a place change. Now let's look at the Pro-Am points. If they finish as they are, 127.5 points, that will be victory in the championship by 11 points for Miguel Ramos on Enrique Chavez. Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann, their car is ahead on the track. but it's falling back towards them. It started a long way clear. The first car in Pro-Am was starting from 4th on the grid, and the second one was starting from 15th, and so the gap has come down. It's now 6th to 12th, but Johnny Adam is playing a role as well in that Aston Martin, trying to mix it up in there.
Back down into, runs wide, it lets the door open a bit. Lamborghini not close enough to make any effect.
It does seem, John, there's option A and option B. If you're far enough ahead, you can take that wider line. If you've got someone right in your tail, you can't, because as we've seen today, people think if there's half a gap, they're going for it into turn 8.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that there's an option that drivers are taking with, they're doing it deliberately. Some people just find they haven't got the grip on the entry to hug the curb and keep that tight line all the way around. And it does offer up an opportunity. It's understandable why a driver following might think, there's the door open, I'm going to stick my nose in the door, put my foot in the door, at least leave your nose somewhere else.
So the gap between first and second, it's staying pretty stable. In fact, the last lap, it's come down to 0.544 of a second between Mauro Engel and Jules Gounon. Looking down the order, this is the middle of the Pro-Am battle. Enrique Chavez coming now behind Johnny Adams, so that was the lap the move was effected. 12th became 13th for Chavez, but still on course for the Pro-Am points. But they want to end on a high here. They were trying so hard in the end of the opening race, this morning's race, to win the Pro-Am class. That big battle with Andrea Bertolini and Enrique Chavez, but Chavez didn't quite do it. But it wasn't for want of trying, and I think it's not for want of trying here that we're seeing Jules Gounon getting closer and closer to Mauro Engel.
I don't think Mauro Engel's overly worried about it, because, as I was talking, the change of drivers is going to favour the number 6, because Lucas Stolz and Mauro Engel is a very well-known established team, a lot of experience, won lots of races. Jules Gounon is going to hand over to Petru Umberescu with respect, who's maybe not quite at the level of experience. So one might think that the 6 car isn't going to be overly concerned whatever's happening behind in the 89 with Jules Gounon. And even if he got ahead, I suspect that because of the difference in balance between the 2 cars and the driver lineup is going to favour the number 6.
Yeah, and indeed, as well as Gounon, you look at Jim Pla in the 87, he hands over to Konstantin Teroshenko. You look at Christian Engelhardt, he hands over to Adrian Delina. Well, the 163 is probably the next one with a really well-balanced driver pairing in terms of Norbert Siedler taking over from Albert Costa. So Siedler's job, Costa's job would to be stay as close as he can to the cars in front. He'd love to try and overtake, but he's not under pressure from behind, running around in 5th place. Dominic Baumann, leading the Pro-Am grouping, is in 6th. He's not under immediate pressure from Yusuf Pohaka, who's just running in the background behind him, or Rick Breukers in the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes. It's good for Mercedes. They've got a lot of cars at the top end of the field, only really split by 4th and 5th places. Otherwise, the top 8, we've got of course, a Porsche, Engelhardt in 4th and Costa 5th in his Lamborghini. The rest are all Mercedes in the top 8.
Well, the front 4-row grids, 3 of those 4 grids were occupied by Mercedes. The 3rd row of the grid was the Porsche and the Lamborghini. But it's just been an absolute lockout for Mercedes here in the race 2 and the qualifying that took place on yesterday.
But John, the big irony in that is when Mercedes were super strong, the driver who'd been strongest for them in practice on Friday and then through testing on Friday, practice on Saturday, was Raffaele Marciello, and he ended up starting down in, 23rd position on the grid, so uncharted territory for him.
Incident at the start in turn 2 involving car 32, 114 and 108 under investigation.
Yeah, the whole thing about the 88 with Raffaele Marciello, the one car in the entire field that you would not anticipate starting 23rd on the grid, and look at this, getting again very racy, coming through turns 12 and through 13. 3 cars into one is going to be a tight squeeze. Aston hangs out, and that's in fact the Ferrari following, so he might well do quite well. Eddie Cheever might have done better out of that than he thought. He's got alongside the Audi, and he can control that position from the, so he's coming across to try and get a better entry into turn 1. The Audi, it's gone round it. What a drive round the outside.
Well, that's Alex Arca, and I think he's clearly spurred on by what his teammate Dennis Marshall did. He fancies going the inside of Nicolas Kjærgaard, and I reckon the Ferrari might duck under the pair of them. Not quite at turn 2, but certainly had a look. So suddenly this is getting a little bit more exciting, John.
Well, again, there's a bit of body rub going on with these 4 cars, and fortunately turn 2 is a relatively slow corner, and then you can take the the wider exit as you then drop down through 3.
Well, behind them, Pierre Alexander and Sean was getting in the wars as well. Something been put in their juice this morning.
I don't know. I think it's just the nature of the racetrack. It just generates this kind of racing, aggressive racing. I think the 31 Audi of Frank Bird and Rizzero got a little bit out of shape. I mean, it's just nuts.
Well, Enrique Chavez went a little bit wide there, and Christopher Haase up the inside and up possibly inside of both of them. And certainly trying is Raffaele Marciello, and Robin Freitz trying to come through as well. This is a very fast pack of cars. If you think of the names in the history of this championship, Haase, Marciello and Robin Freitz, they've all been super quick. So Enrique Ramos doesn't really want to be in their company, but doesn't want to lose too much ground to Johnny Adam, who got ahead to second in the Pro-Am class. But right now, this is a battle that's quicker than Ramos, so he just doesn't want to get involved in it.
He's in it, and he's now got Robin Freins on the tail of the Lamborghini, but we've still got the pit stop windows open. It'll be open in just about 1.5 minutes time. And again, it will be interesting to see those cars that are running in Pro-Am where there is an imbalance in driver performance. Silver car balance is a slightly better one up the inside, and the Lamborghini actually did the right thing. It turned away. It saw Robin Freins coming and actually turned away to a large space. Now that was good spatial awareness and understanding of what's going on around you on the racetrack.
And then have a few seconds to note who's coming up next. The next one in line is Alex Fontana. Again, these drivers not used to being at the back of the field, so working their way through. It's a different mixing of the pack today, I'd suggest, in this race in particular. Right, third place still being hotly contested. Jim Pla is getting pushed more and more by Christian Engelhardt as those first two cars escape. Mauro Engel and Jules Gounon now nearly 5 seconds up at the road. They're only about half a second apart, 7/10 of a second apart. But has he got the moves to stick? It's very tight. The nose looks like it's up the inside, John.
Yeah,
Engelhardt goes through.
He's got it. He was just alongside, sufficiently alongside that Jim Pla, and watch Albert Costa now making the undercut to try and get up alongside into turn 13, and Jim Pla's had to concede 2 positions in the space of what, 3 corners.
Yeah, so the end of the lap, very, very tricky indeed. Turn 12, drivers dive very deep in that. Then turn 13 keeps on turning to the left and then tightens up at 14. So many cars go running wide, but that was a good thinking manoeuvre there from Christian Engelhardt to move up to third place.
Yeah, now he's 4.8 seconds behind Jules Gounon in second place. So we're coming up to the pit stop window opening up in just over a minute, so that's going to be the time when the first of the pit stoppers are going to stop. Now that we saw the number 6 Mercedes make a very early pit stop in race 1, I wonder whether they'll follow that philosophy in race 2, or whether they'll keep Mauro Engel behind the wheel a little bit longer than they did for Lucas Stolz.
Dominic Baumann still keeping on the tail of that third, fourth, fifth, sixth place battle. They were slightly slowed by getting so close together, so good run from the Austrian. Yusa Bahako in 7th, Rick Breukers in 8th, so more Mercedes. Then the first in the Audis, Marcus Finkelhock and Matthias Drudy, who's had a remarkably quiet meeting by his standards, up into 10th place. To behind them, just outside the top 10, Ollie Wilkinson, not able to get any change out of Drudy at all.
So I just wonder how much Engelhardt has got remaining in terms of performance. Clearly he was quicker than the number 87 Mercedes, Jim Pla, but he couldn't find a way through until this last lap. So the Porsche and the Lamborghini stretching ahead of Jim Pla in 5th place.
Right, of course, the teams at the front end that have the real options about when to come in, the pit end window is going to open within the next 10 seconds, are those that have a really well-balanced driver lineup. But for those where the starting driver is the faster driver of the pairing, they need to stay out longer. So do it.
Well, look, already
the car from third place. There's Pla coming in to hand over to Tereschenko.
Yes. So that's strange. Why would they come in again, other than they want to get back out when the track is relatively clear and allow Konstantin Tereschenko to go in clear air? But I didn't expect that car that had been a front-running car up until the last lap to be in as early.
Yeah, it just totally shot my theory out of the water. But the McLaren coming in as well, that one we did expect to come in because Ben Barnicoat is the man who really makes that fly. Ollie Wilkinson's been doing a good job, but Ben Barnicoat and that McLaren at Brands Hatch and here at Valencia, he's gone better than anybody else. Aston Martin in as well, so plenty of changes. But those that didn't come in, Mauro Engel and Jules Gounon, separated. Actually, it's gone out to 9/10 of a second now, first to second. Christian Engelhardt has worked his way up to third place. He stays there. Albert Costa, as we saw, went up the inside of Pla into the final corner. So the top 4 have remained out on the circuit. Dominic Baumann also, but and Rick Breukers, they're the top 6 now, but the rest pretty much have all dived into the pits.
early pit stop for a lot of the cars, and the 31 Audi up on the jacks, still waiting for it to fall down. There it goes. So the McLaren's rolling down the pit lane. Ben Bonnecook behind the wheel of that. The Lamborghini likewise. So smokes the tires just to get it rolling. So that's the 14. So Ricardo Feller will have taken over controls of that car, and expect fireworks from Ricardo Feller as the lead two continue to stay on track.
They certainly do, and the car in 5th place, the black Mercedes, just coming through turn 14, that should stay as Costa comes in. Bauman's going to stay out as long as he possibly can. He is the pro in that Pro-Am lineup. He's got track position. He's running 4th overall. Valentin Pierberg, they've won the class once this year in the 9 races so far, but he's going to stay out on the track. The Austrian's going to keep on padding around, and that is very much the right thing to do.
It's interesting that the 163 with Albert Costa behind the wheel, I would have expected that car to stay out longer. It was in a situation where it had just gotten into 4th place, and then they're coming in doing a driver change, and Norbert Siedler will take over.
Yeah, there'll be no drop-off in performance when Norbert gets on board. Klaus Bachler, again, I thought he might have stayed out longer, but all our theories are being broken up. But Julian Apotlos, he is a very, very handy young racer, so out he goes in the 222 Allied Racing Porsche. He'll be the next to take over. But up front, going through the kink at turn 7 down to turn 8 are our race leaders, Mauro Engel and Jules Gugnon. And the first of the front-running pit stoppers to pit, now emerging back onto the circuit. But of course, the order is completely out of kilter for the next handful of laps, and the drivers can still go for 7 minutes before pit closes. So let's take a look at the start. This is riding, looking forward at the Allied Racing Porsche from the Barwell Lamborghini. Look at the Audi in the middle. Oh dear, that's the 32 car of Dries van Toorn. A bit of a push and a rub. No wonder they went so high. We saw them going to the outside of the circuit, and the fun wasn't over for Van Toorn, because he was going to have further contact up there. Race leader in. Well, the new race leader, therefore, is Jules Gugnon, who's going to go on as long as he can. But Mauro Engel, as I said, such a well-balanced, double-quick drivers in this car. Lucas Stolz be waiting to take it over. There'll be no drop-off in performance, so that is they had the choice to work out their position.
The other thing they did was a very, very good pit stop in the race 1 this morning, and both drivers acknowledged the great teamwork done by TalkSport to get that car in, out and changed. And this is where really in these circuits where overtaking is tight, these races are won or lost, and they were hoping to repeat that kind of performance here for their sole pit stop this afternoon. Mauro Engel just assisting Lucas Stolz getting the belts and whatever other cars off the jacks as it's going to roll. Pretty impressive stuff. That company, the door was barely closed before the car was rolling down the pit lane.
Yeah, very, very. Again, that's why teams practice. It seems silly. You think everyone should be able to do it, but practice really does help. So out onto the circuit with no one to slam around their bows. That is good news. But of course, Jules Gugnon is going to continue in the lead. Christian Engelhardt in the dynamic Porsche is going to continue in 2nd place, but Dominic Baumann also yet to pit. He's running 3rd on the circuit. He's leading the Pro-Am runners, but Johnny Adam is certainly picking up the pace as well.
But who's the quickest car on the circuit right now? It's the number 38 Jutta McLaren, Ben Barnacle behind the wheel. Fastest sectors 1, sector 2, fastest race lap to date.
Showing off, really, isn't it? Quite simply.
Incident between car 32 and car 25 at the first lap in turn 2 under investigation.
Well, that was the collision into turn 2. Yeah,
that was the one we just replayed. So collision there, photographic moving images there as proof. So out of the lead comes Jules Gugnon rumbling down the pit lane. So Petru Umberescu, this could be his big day in racing here at Valencia, taking over the car that had been running in effective 2nd place. So for ACA ASP, again, they're very, very slick in their pit stops, but no more pit stops for TalkSport WRT for their 6th crew, because that's all been affected very, very well indeed. Engel out and Lucas Stolz on board.
But watch Lucas Stolz is going to be coming into turn 13 as the 89 Mercedes rolls down the pit lane. There is what we believe will be the lead car, but we have to see where the 89 Mercedes is in relation to it as onto the start-finish straight, building up speed. Well, looks like 89 is going to take the lead, because is it going to or not? It's going to be absolutely side by side as the Mercedes 6 enters the corner and 89 returns to the racetrack.
Couldn't get any closer than that, and of course the 89 car with Razvan Umberescu couldn't pull across the bows. Mauro Engel looking a little hot, but very pleased to do that little punch of the fist there, and Stolz, it's up to him to deliver from here, and you feel it's in a safe pair of hands. But for Petru Umberescu, this is racing at a level he hasn't had this exposure before, and already you can start to sense that Stolz is pulling clear.
So Christian Engelhardt still our race leader on lap 19. has a 3/4 of a second advantage over the, well, waiting for the 89 Mercedes to cross over. So there is our race leader. We're always just waiting for the timing and scoring to catch up with itself, because cars go into the pit lane just before the timing and scoring line. And then it's the Porsche, what we've got, this has got to be his last lap. It's just over 2.5 minutes to go before the pit lane will be closed. So Engelhardt will use the clear track to full advantage before he brings that car in.
Dominic Baumann in, so the equally tall figure of Valentin Pierberg waiting to help him out. Get on board, and then the drivers reverse their roles. One helps to get out.
Warning, car 31 for track limits.
Okay, that's the Riachiro, Tomito, Frank Bird out. It's not having the best of races. It started right down towards the tail of the field, and it's running in 22nd position. And the car that Robin Freitz started, number 30 Audi, in as well. But for TalkSport WRT, for the Stoltz Engel car, their first pit stop worked so well that they just eked the lead from the McLaren when it came back out with Ollie Wilkinson on board, and they've done it right all over again. Second race running.
Yeah, but I think the ACA ASP pit stop for the 89 car was actually maybe better than that for TalkSport on this occasion, because the gap before they came in was round about just a second, and then when they came both out, there was virtually nothing between the two.
Right, I do sense the McLaren has actually gained a handful of positions. It was 11th before the pit stops, and I think we'll see Ben Barnicoat, when this lap and the screens settle again, has worked his way up a few places. Maybe he can get something more than a top 10 finish. Maybe he can get up into the top 6. But really, these laps are absolutely crucial. Christian Engelhardt, will he come in? Yes, he will, from the lead of the race. He heard your voice, John, and he thought going one further lap, that would be a risk too far in trying to just squeeze one more in before handing it over. So Adrian Delina will be bouncing on the balls of his feet in the pit lane, waiting to take that over. Effectively, it was running in 3rd place before the pit stops. Don't forget, having had that overtaking manoeuvre that shoved Jim Pla back to 4th and then immediately to 5th when the Lamborghini went by as well.
Now, Adrian Delina suffered some, spinal fractures and some fractured ribs in that incident in Italy.
89, the last warning for track limits.
Yeah.
89, the last warning for track limits.
Yeah. Okay, that's the Mercedes running in 2nd place.
Yeah.
So Jules Gougnot might have clocked them up, and if it wasn't him, Petro Umberescu must have got a lot very, very quickly indeed after going back onto the circuit.
And just to mention Adrian Delina, he certainly is physically fit and recovered, because he helped out and into that Porsche like a gymnast.
Didn't he just? I said he'd be bouncing up and down on the balls of his feet just in expectation, but clearly adrenaline can do many things. Now, where is the Porsche going to come out? It was ahead of the Lamborghini before the pit stops. Which of the Lamborghinis was that? Was that the one that's just in front of it? If it's yes, it is. So he's lost a position in the pit stops. Now, this is the final Pro-Am pit stop, or final pit stop before collecting the Pro-Am title in the Sprint Cup for Enrique Chavez and Miguel Ramos, and it's birthday boy.
Well, they're running first, second and third, Johnny Adam, Chavez and Bertolini, but that's all going to reset very shortly.
Yeah, because Miguel Ramos has just taken over, and so the last few cars just calling in to the pit lane. In fact, Johnny Adam hasn't been listed as coming into the pit lane yet, but the pit window is still open, John, but it's about... Someone's got their hand on it and about to close it.
I mean, they're running it very close indeed. It's a high-risk strategy to run this close to... going up to the 25 minutes.
But it's just coming through the final corner in the background, and not that shot. Johnny Adam now reporting in the pit lane. So what we were worried about, he's just got in, and the window is now closing.
Well, that was a bit of a pinch to come up into turn 6. So there is the Aston, the last of the cars that will enter the pit lane. And he did it with about 10 seconds to spare.
Yeah, well, did exactly what he wanted to do, maximise his time in the car now for Alexander West, who was just a passenger in the first part of the race when he was taken out on the run down to turn 7 by other people rejoining the circuit in his path. Put the disappointment of not being able to tilt for the Pro-Am honours behind him, and now just see what sort of results they can rescue from this. But Stoltz leading the way by, just waiting for the interval, 5 seconds from Petro Umberescu. Bear in mind the cars were side by side when the Romanian came out, but already Stoltz had the hammer down, had the heat in the tyres, and was flying. And Norbert Siedler in 163 is in effective 3rd place. Christian Engelhardt has handed over to Adrian Delina, slotted back into 4th place overall.
So 77, and that is currently, well, it's just the timing and scoring is again resetting. It's need to get one more lap for the car to come through to get that proper reset, as the Aston Martin 188 goes back out. Alexander West behind the wheel, and he's going to be needs to keep his eye on his mirrors because he's got the Lamborghini and the Ferrari bearing down, and outlap for the AM of that Pro-Am car is always going to be a little bit more tentative than those that are behind the wheel for a number of laps.
Yes, it's also just the level of awareness. You're just so focused on dialing yourself in and making sure you're onto the pace. But no question at all that Lucas Stoltz is leading the way. There it is, the number 6 TalkSport WRT Mercedes was about 5 seconds clear on the start line from the second place car, Petro Umbarescu, the 89 ACA ASP Mercedes. Let's wait for it. You can see the gap visually. There it is as it comes through the final corner, turn 14 here at the circuit. Ricardo Tormo. That is the second place Mercedes for Petro Umbarescu. He's got Norbert Siedler about 3 and a bit seconds behind him. That's the 163 Lamborghini if we hold a long shot, but this is the highest position we've seen Petro Umbarescu running in a race in the GT World Challenge. Third place, and probably going to be closing, Norbert Siedler. And again, this was a stop you thought might have been left a little bit later. In fourth place, Adrian Delina in the Porsche in the background.
Yes, the Lamborghini running right now in third place is about 3 to 4 tenths of a second the lap quicker than the second place Petro Umbarescu in the 89 Mercedes. And Adrian Delina just going to look down and see what his last lap was, 1:35. So that was not a lap that would have challenged the first. And in fact, the last lap of Lucas Stoltz was a 1:33.6. Over a full second quicker than Petro Umbarescu. So Lucas Stoltz knows what the pace of the car is and is using it very effectively.
Certainly is. Just working on down through the top 10, down Ezekiel Perez Compangs car, the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes. There it is. That is running hot on the tail of Konstantin Terashenko. That's in 6th. Oscar Tunjo 7th, the second of the TalkSport WRT Mercedes. That's the black one. Then Aurelian Panis 8th. In his Santalog Audi. Ben Barnicoat in 9th, so he has got into the top 10. And Kiko Galbiati, his first Sprint Cup performance this year in the number 66 Temto Racing Audi, just ahead of Timo Boguslavski. That 88 Mercedes started 23rd, up to 11th. A few more places to come, I would feel.
McLaren just about going to get past Aurelian Panis, but side by side. Will the Audi concede, or was it going to just shut the door and put both cars in? I think they did concede because the McLaren's gotten into turns 12 and 11 and 12 cleanly, and there it is. So the pass was made by Ben Barnicoat. He got the run out of turn 11 and into 12, and he took the high ground, and nothing that the Audi was able to do to resist Ben Barnicoat.
Had he tried to resist, it would have been fireworks, but not the good sort of fireworks. It would have been most unfortunate. But now let's see Ben Barnicoat. His next target is Oscar Tunjo, who over the start-finish line just under 1.5 seconds clear. But this McLaren around this circuit in the hands of Ben Barnicoat has been a very, very potent tool indeed.
The problem that Barnicoat has got is he's 22.4 seconds behind the race leader. So
don't tell him. His team just have to tell him, keep picking off the cars in front.
Absolutely. He's in 8th position right now. He's probably got the opportunity to get up to 6th. And, well, maybe he might even challenge Terashenko in the 87 Mercedes for 5th place. But 6th place is a realistic, I think, option for the 38 McLaren.
Right, just to let you know what's happening in the Pro-Am class, we saw at the start of the race we had Dominic Baumann starting in 4th on the grid. He let a couple of cars pass, but he kept running in 6th place. But after the pit stops, that car, he handed over to Valentin Pierberg, and it scrambled its way, unfortunately, backwards down to 15th. That's still a good position for Pro-Am, and importantly, it's still 6 positions clear of the next car in class, which is Alexander West, the 188 Aston Martin.
Timo Boguslavski in 11th position, trying to run down Kiki Gabayani, but he's been kept very honest by Leo Roussel in 12th position, and then Dennis Marshall in 13th. Dennis Marshall was one of the stars, we felt, of the sprint race earlier today.
Qualified well, qualified 4th, finished 4th along with Alex Arca. And again, he's picking up, of course, the drivers get flipped around for this race. So the drivers who started the first race start the second part of this race this afternoon. And so they find themselves in different positions. And Ricardo Fella is always exciting to watch. They're a little more exciting than planned, one feels, at turn 12.
I mean, I don't know whether he drives like that naturally or just as a consequence of the speed he is carrying, but certainly he went every part of the racetrack, but the bits he should have been on, as we look at the 188 Aston. Then followed, is that 159? In fact, that's 159, followed by Frank Bird for 17th and 18th position.
Yeah, Tujala, Bird, and in the background, a fella running deep into the corner. And, well, that's a rough, uncomfortable ride. And the readjustment he had to make when he came back onto the circuit at turn 13 was quite intense. So let's take a look in the Silver Cup predictions. If it finishes as it is, his teammate, the teammate of Fontana, of Fella, who's pushing so hard, Alex Fontana, will land the title, because Frank Bird and rear Chirotomita. There is the car with the white Audi with the yellow flash in that mix, but he's not going to be able to overhaul them. They will end up in second overall. So, in fact, Riccardo Feller doesn't need to do anything. But then bear in mind his teammate Alex Fontana didn't need to do anything in the first race.
Absolutely
he made a
not.
move.
But I mean, I'll tell you what, Riccardo Feller's got his sights on the Frank Bird, the 31 Audi, and he is going to make a move. Whatever it takes, he's going to find a way to put the Lamborghini ahead of the Audi as they go into turn 9, and then the cutback for 10, then the tight 11. So it's all about just trying to position your car and yourself as best as possible.
Well, here's Dennis Marshall trying to position his car, and Timo Boguslawski just up ahead. So Marshall has been gaining ground yet again. Lea Roussel just in front of them. Or what's the point? Boguslawski has lost the position to the Sansalot Racing of Lea Roussel. So a swap just outside the top 10. The other swap has been Ben Barnicoat going past Oscar Tunja. His next target, Ezequiel Perez Compang. So it's been a good couple of laps from the McLaren driver as well.
17 minutes of the race remaining, and Boguslawski, is that Boguslawski? It's
incident between car 108, 114 and 32 in T2. The driver of car 32 gets a reprimand and 1 behavior point.
Oh, Dries van Thor.
Dries van Thor up the inside of another battle. So that's 2 moments that have been investigated today. This is the most extraordinary day for Dries van Thor and Charles Weers. And it shows when you're back in the pack rather than up the very front, you've got more opportunity for collisions and mistakes, both unexpected, but anyhow.
It did smack of being out of character, but you could see him coming from the minute he exited turn 1, and the poor Eddie Cheever and the Ferrari was caught between the Bentley in the one hand and the Audi up the inside, and we got squeezed in the middle.
Timo Boguslawski came under increased pressure from Dennis Marshall. Boguslawski lost out last lap to Lea Roussel, falling back to 12th, could be going down to 13th, because certainly Dennis Marshall looking good, and in the background, just behind them as they battle, Benjamin Goethe in the pale blue and orange Gulf livery car, trying its very, very best to get onto their tail, and as this scrap builds up, it could yet come their way. Now, this little battle slightly further back, it's Thomas Tuchel in the Aston Martin, that's 159, just ahead of Frank Bird, and Riccardo Feller still in behind. They've gone around the other way.
Feller's got ahead of Frank Bird. Now he's got his eyes trained onto the back of the Aston Martin, so we didn't expect Riccardo Feller to take very long to make that further progress.
Well, he did it this lap, so the lap chart was suddenly a flip over on the timing screen, so we'll see position gain. There it is, 15th becomes 14 for Riccardo Feller. Not in the same, well, they are in the same battle, because his teammate is Alex Fontana, so this is pretty much putting the championship for the Silver Cup into his pocket. Start, finish straight.
Come down, start, finish straight. Frank Bird goes defensive, and Riccardo Feller stays on his line. That will give Feller the better opportunity to get him alongside, and the idea was compromised by making that move, and then had the sort of more difficult entry into turn 1. So you get what you get paid back what you do.
Yeah, and you put the pressure on someone, and they may or may not crack. And in that case, just a little too deep into turn 1 for Frank Bird, and that was all the invitation. Let's take a look at this top speed at turn 13. That long left-hander is Riccardo Feller, the man who's making the moves right now. About to pick off Tuchel. Is he? The Aston Martin doesn't leave the door quite open, but he can get up the inside. He can put that Lamborghini where he wants it, John.
Yeah, but what he did, he put pressure on the Aston and forced the Aston to go into turn 8 a little bit too quickly, and very thoughtfully, cleverly, Riccardo Feller dived back under the Aston, and now Frank Bird likewise is saying, can I get alongside? But it's going to be difficult. He's run too wide on the exit of turn 11. But that is good thinking and good driving from Riccardo Feller to force the Aston to make that mistake, and I suspect that Tuchel will be thinking, and here we go, Frank Bird, well, we just lost the picture as we go to another traffic jam coming down, start, finish straight.
Absolutely extraordinary battle. That's Lea Roussel, Timo Boguslawski, Dennis Marshall, and Benjamin Goethe at the back of that grouping. Very, very tight cluster of cars, and Dennis Marshall gaining positions. Timo Boguslawski, it just doesn't look right for the 88 Mercedes today.
Wow, and it just about gets around the outside. Look up the inside as well as the Audi gets alongside, but I've just got alongside. Then it's now the cut back. So again, coming into turn 5. So the job was done initially by Dennis Marshall, and I thought we were going to see the Benjamin Goethe get through. He's going to go the long way around turn 6, and there's no room on the outside. You get further and further run off the racetrack in the process of doing that. And where is that number 30 Audi? Well, there it is.
He's a long time. It's when you look back thinking, okay, he's going to drop into line behind. He absolutely hasn't. And Timo Bogoslawski still has the inside line, but momentum around the outside with a bit of push and shove and a bit of gravel. Goethe, you young fellow, you're not coming through, said the Russian.
Staunch defence by the Russian driver. And quite rightly too, because you could see what was happening. I mean, technically the Audi was ahead, but it couldn't get the nose in. And Bogoslawski did get the Mercedes back into position. Maybe that you could say was a little bit of a squeeze that was unnecessary, forcing the Audi off the racetrack in the process of defending your own position.
To be honest, the Audi, Benjamin Goethe could have turned harder across into the corner, but just wasn't quite sure where the Mercedes was. So he offered discretion as the better part, and his price for that was to be pushed a little bit wide. So while Lukas Stolz is leading by 10 seconds from Petro Borescu, the Romanian still in second place, but he's only got a second now clear of the third place runner. Here is our race leader, Lukas Stolz, looking unflappable. He always looks unflappable in the lead of this race. It's been a fantastic meeting at Valencia. He's got a dozen minutes remaining of the hour. He's got nobody near him, so bar car troubles, they're going to come away from here. Yesterday they were scratching their heads, couldn't find a setup for the car. It suddenly came good for qualifying, and they've got 2 front row starts, and looks like they're going to end up with 2 race victories. But for Petro Borescu, he'd be being cheered on from the pit lane by his teammate, the ever enthusiastic Jules Gounon, but that is where the battle is for position change right now. There's under a second as Norbert Siedler closes in, but nobody, absolutely nobody's coming close to TalkSport WRT at the moment.
No, and I mean that battle for third and second place, Norbert Siedler will have the natural pace to be quicker than the Mercedes driver, but of course he gets under the rear wing. He may not have sufficient additional pace to find a way through as we watch this battle again. Up, oh, 99, what has gone on? Dennis Marshall, what's gone on? He stopped. That's up at turn 6. Was that contact or is it a technical problem?
Well, one wonders, because contact, you'd normally have the car further off the circuit. You can see he's off the racing line. The other car's coming through totally different angle. He just got up to 12th place with Timo Bogoslawski. We saw that. Now this is the battle for second place. Petro Borescu, the driver from Romania. Nice-ish, neat, tidy, but he's a second to the good. Actually, he was a slightly better lap, but Norbert Siedler is hunting him in the 163 Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini. You feel he should be able to close in. He has closed in, but how long can Borescu keep getting the right lines? He's got way less experience.
Yes, he has less experience, but he's got the track position. And Norbert Siedler is quicker of the two, but he's not got any additional pace to really, I think, seriously challenge the Mercedes for second place. And other than maybe if we get into a situation where you're catching up to tail enders to lap traffic, but Borescu got the nose of the Mercedes into turn 8 perfectly. So the balance of that car looks very good, as in fact does that of the following Lamborghini.
Right, traffic will not be an issue, because as they turn into turn 11, the race leader is just going through turn 12, and the next car up is just approaching turn 1. So in the remaining 11 minutes of this race, they're not going to catch the Louis Michel's AF Corsa Ferrari that's effectively last in the world.
One positional change predicted is that 38 McLaren Ben Barnicoat currently in 5th position, as we see the removal vehicle, just somebody coming across the front of the camera, is only 3.5 seconds behind the 4th place Adrian Delinia in the Porsche. So that's a potential. The pace that the McLaren certainly showed in the opening phases indicates it might just about do it.
Well, it may, so it's picked itself. It was 11th before the pit stops. Fairly soon up to 7th place. Then it picked off Ezekiel Perez-Compe, then Konstantin Tereshchenko in the 87 ACA ASP Mercedes went the way of the West and the rest. But Adrian Delina, yeah, that is the next target for Ben Barnicoat. This great little battle, though, down around the middle orders. It's Kiko Galbiati, Louis Roussel, Timo Bogoslawski, and the third car in that fourth car in the 4-car pack, Benjamin Goethe. Is he going to be able to take another move? And Roussel makes the move just on that lap to go ahead of Galbiati to get in that blue-nosed Audi for Sansalot Racing into the final point position in 10th place.
And he's now got a little bit of clear air because the gap is about 10 seconds between 10th and 9th, so that's going to mean he's got freedom. But up the inside,
159 under investigation for overtaking under double yellow flag.
Oh, okay, well, just bear that in mind, because again, pit lane speeding isn't a good thing, and then overtaking under not single yellow but double yellow flag. But a really feisty battle there between Roussel and Galbiati. May not have heard the last of that as yet.
Looked, reminded me a bit of going in the Dodgem cars up at Port Stewart, Port Rush and Northern Ireland, that little incident coming out of turn 11. But there we go. As we look at That's Evan Barescu, yeah, in second place.
Well, let's have a look too at how is Dominic Baumann faring. He's 14th overall looking at the timesheets. He's half a second of ahead of the Bentley. Well, this is the battle for second place, right?
Yes.
Let's see. Barescu and Norbert Siedler, 0.8 of a second between them last time, 1.3. So Barescu is... You were right, your eyes did not deceive you.
No, I didn't, because the car looked very good in turn 8. And I just wonder, is the pace that the Lamborghini might have had initially just beginning to falter? As we go back to Ben Barnicoat, who's chasing down Adrian Delina, the gap is down to a second. So in the space of one lap, he's taken a bunch of time.
88 and 30 under investigation.
88 and 30. So
Timo Bogoslawski and Benjamin Goethe. So there's Dennis Marshall's deposed car. It's a shame that was going well all meeting. Took 4th in the first race, but if you remember, Benjamin Goethe down into turn 7. And you described a little bit of a robust manoeuvre.
So Ricardo Fella right on the tail of the Bentley. Ulysses de Paul, this is for 15th position. The Fella's had to come from the back all the way through this race. And again, you can see how much quicker he is coming out of turn 6. Out of turn 3 into 4. Looking backwards, trying to recall the track. Fella looking at every opportunity to try to force an issue with the Bentley. So up the hill into turn 6. So his next chance is going to come not here, but maybe if he gets a good run off this corner into turn 8. But it's high risk strategy if you want to do that.
So Benjamin Goethe now goes up inside Timo Bogoslawski. Also a suggestion he might have to hand the position back. But we saw the pacers with Goethe ahead of that incident down at turn 8. That's still under investigation. Next target is the car in front, which is Kiko Galbiati, all trying to get into the top 10. But let's take a look at what happened before. This was the manoeuvre out of, well, the top of the track. We had it coming down into turn 7. This isn't the manoeuvre we're thinking of, John, because he came around the outside. You remember having run side by side through turn 6, but a replay of that move where it worked this time around, hunted down Bogoslawski and pulled that move off. So it's quite good to do it at a corner where you've been given a bit of a rub before, but you take the opposite line in the corner and make it stick.
So Ricardo Fella following on behind the Bentley as we see the field just directly ahead. No, he's got ahead. Ricardo Fella's gone ahead now. I was just trying to look at the back of the Mercedes we were seeing from the Lamborghini. There is the Bentley. So Fella has made that pass. So he is up to 15th position, and Ben Barnicoat is now within a 10th of a second of getting 4th position. The Porsche 54 Dynamic Motorsport under serious threat.
Yeah, well, that was, well, let's take a move. Well, the Dynamic Motorsport car visited friends and family in the grandstands and then came back. So, again, we've seen pressure applied into turn 1. The car in front just gets the cornering line a little bit wrong. So, up to 4th place now for the McLaren. Surely that will be as high as it can go. He's got to find 7-8 seconds to catch up with Norbert Siedler. Siedler's pace is dropping off in 3rd place, but the race leader is not dropping off at all. Lucas Stoltz, almost as though he's here for a sprint all on his own, because he's halfway down the start-finish straight, and the battle for 2nd and 3rd we're looking at now only finally coming through turn 14, the final corner of the lap, just as the white Mercedes is turning into turn 1.
Yes, I mean, Siedler's maybe run the best he's got out of the Lamborghini, and Uberesco's actually, I think, as the season, as this stint has gone on, has gotten better and better, and he's consolidated that gap, and his car also looks to be very good. And you can see how much already the McLaren has pulled on the 5th place Porsche. So while it's a 6.2 second gap between 4th and 5th, and we've got 5 minutes remaining, you never know. You would have said it's unlikely, but you never know.
Well, all Barnicoat can do is try and get to the podium. He's just got to keep his head down. He was the fastest car on the track, even faster than the race leader Lucas Stoltz last time around. Stoltz doesn't have to push. He's got that hugely comfortable buffer. It's 13 seconds now, and should be sitting on that. Further down the top 10, we've got Konstantin Tereshchenko being chased by Ezekiel Perez Compact. They're fighting over 6th and 7th positions. Oscar Tunjo behind them in a Mercedes train, and in the background of that shot is Aurelien Panis. He is running in 9th position. The top 10 is also completed by an Audi, which is Leo Rissell, who's just worked his way through that gaggle of Galbiati, Goethe and Bogoslawski.
Been a very, very busy racetrack. You get in pockets of 3, 4, 5 cars all fighting like ferrets in a sack, and then you get gaps where you've got the race leader running in clear air, what, 10.2 seconds ahead. So that is the battle for 2nd place, and as you pointed out, the Lamborghini appears to be falling away. It's only marginal, but it is falling away as they come through to come up to complete lap 34. Right,
Chris Froggatt, this is a move under investigation, we understand. Up ahead, we've got Dennis Marshall's car, and he was pushing and shoving to get past the Aston Martin. So let's take a look at whether that...
Correct. Did he actually overtake, or did he attempt to overtake but pull back?
So down to turn 7 as we watch this. Turn 8, we watch this replay. They've been through the kink at 7, and the Froggatt car still fighting hard. The Ferrari pushing, trying to get past Thomas Tuchel. Nose up the insides, not always the winning angle there. Oh, a little bit. Did they have touch there? It's unusual to find the inside line in 11 to work.
Well, I mean, I have to be fair to Chris Froggatt. He forced the issue, and of course, once he had the inside into turn 11, then he was in a position to consolidate. Wow, look at this.
There's not much time left for Riccardo to overtake, but he's certainly clearly ambitious. He wants to pick off these 3 cars. He's got Bogoslawski in front of him, then Goethe, then Galbiati, and he's got the speed in that Lamborghini. The question is where?
But I tell you what, fella is great value to watch. He understands how to use his race car. He knows, he understands the competitor he's trying to challenge. So Bogoslawski is now, what did he do? Into turn 6. Now watch the undercut from the Lamborghini. Here we go. There we are. Even a genius could have worked that one out.
You did, John. You did.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying a genius could have done it.
Yeah. So another place gain, still not in the top 10. So again, it's an extraordinary race for drivers being where you don't expect to find them. And with Alex Fontana having qualified on the 11th row, it was always going to be a climb up the order. He will be going away surely with the Silver Cup honours, because that seems to be in the bag for him. But it has been a bit of a mixed meeting. But anyhow, to end up with the Sprint Cup, Silver Cup honours will be a good reward indeed.
So
he has his mind on other targets.
Up at the 13th position.
First to second is extended yet further, 14.2 seconds from Lucas Stoltz to Petro Urbarescu. Urbarescu in our screen with the red nose on his Mercedes, coming down to turn number 4. He's still got Norbert Siedler behind him in the background, catching them, but not as much as he needs to do so. He's only taking 7/10 of a second per lap. Is Ben Barnicoat in the 38 McLaren. You'd really like them to pick off a podium, because they do deserve it after Brands Hatch and the first race here, but alas, it's not looking likely to happen, and nobody is looking likely to topple the peerless Lucas Stoltz. Mauro Engel will be wandering around the pits, I suggest. No, sitting there, not even having a coffee. That is the definition of relaxation.
Well, it looks like happy families with Mr. and Mrs. Engel sitting back, enjoying their teammate, just going through the motions. What, 1.5 minutes to go. This is going to be the last lap when he comes across start-finish line.
Yeah. Sweeping through turn 13, the tight turn 14 to follow. No pressure from behind, and no pressure in front, because as he goes past pit entry, the car in front of him on the track has gone round turn 1, so he's nowhere near catching that. That is Louis Michiels, the last of the runners.
Well, Norbert Siedler has run down Petro Urbarescu, and the gap has probably just about halved. It was 0.8 of a second 1 lap ago. Be 0.5 or 0.4 of a second. Wait for the timing, and it's going to 0.477 of a second. So he is in the zone, but with 1 lap to go, and there's Ben Barnicoat charging in 4th place. He's got the gap down now to 3.4 seconds, but that's an impossible task to do any further improvements for the McLaren.
Any further gain for Ben Barnicoat would actually involve the cars in front of him tangling with each other, but as they go down the hill from 3 to turn 4, Urbarescu seems to have it covered. The pressure is on him. He just doesn't have the experience of Norbert Siedler, but he's impressed me. Jules Gounon did the spade work, put the car at the front end of the grid, but Petru has, though he couldn't match the pace of our race leader, the driver who's about to win the race, Lucas Stoltz, I have been impressed by his form.
He's driven well because he's been under pressure, and he was given a quick car by Jules Gounon, the car that was matching the pace of our race leader. Mauro Engel stands up in the TalkSport Mercedes garage to watch Lucas Stoltz come through turn 12 on this final lap. Everything absolutely perfect. Metronomic is the word I would use to describe the performance of TalkSport Mercedes here today, not just this afternoon, but this morning as well.
And what makes this so extraordinary, this was a car that was all at sea. The car just didn't feel right yesterday through practice. It got up to qualifying, 2 front row positions. They guessed the right way or used their experience, and that's 2 wins from 2. So joy for Mauro Engel out of the cockpit, but in the cockpit, Lucas Stoltz will be celebrating. Petro Urbarescu, huge celebration for him, taking a 2nd place, a best result. Lights flashing.
Flag, no further action.
No further action on the... I think what happened was the move was begun before. Maybe he was blindsided by not seeing the flag. Then when he saw that, so that was the right decision. And sometimes drivers, they're racing, they're looking at the racetrack. They may be blinded by the other car and not able to see where the flag was being waved.
So just looking at the car, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th, that's Konstantin Tereshchenko, sorry, 6th, 7th, Perez Companys is 7th, Antonio 8th, Aurelien Panis 9th, and is it going to be Leo Roussel taking 10th place? Top 10 completed by Roussel, and Ricardo Feller picked off Boguslavski at least, but didn't get past Goethe and Galbiati, so outside the top 10, but he had the fun of racing. Pro-Am victory on the afternoon goes to Dominic Baumann and Valentin Pierberg, but coming around to complete their run will be, doesn't matter, it'll be third on the track. Second in the Pro-Am class will be Alexander West, started by Johnny Adam, but third and clinching the championship will be the blue and yellow Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini, crossing the line right now for Enrique Chavez in the pits, so smiles all round with team chief Mark Lemmer. And for the driver on board on his 50th birthday, Miguel Ramos, he's completed the job.
Yes, he's just a mere mature youth, so a great drive by everybody in the Barwell team. They've done a stunning job all season.
There's Alex Fontana. Yes, he doesn't normally get a smile on his face when his car's finished in 13th place, but that's the Silver Cup in the bag for him. And you might ask why Ricardo Feller, who did the spade work in the end of the race, doesn't get a share. That's because they didn't share the car in the opening race of the season.
So another frenetic event here to round up the day in Valencia at the Ricardo Tormo circuit. A really, a real, I would call it a scratcher's circuit. You've got to fight for every centimetre of this racetrack to make progress, and you can see the relief on the face of Alex Fontana. He is, well,
it's happiness and sort of just bizarre to be finishing 13th and yet be happy. But there is the Sprint Cup classification in the end, well clear for Fontana. So job well done by the Swiss driver, and exemplary performance from Lukas Stolz. You can see STO flashing on the windscreen. He'll be greeted beneath the podium by his co-winner, by Maro Engel. And in the Barwell Motorsport camp, it's going to be smiles all round. They've won the Pro-Am title in the Sprint Cup for 2021. Miguel Ramos bringing it home on his 50th birthday, and he'll be greeted by Enrique Chavez, who looks pretty chuffed indeed. So at the end, it was 2 Mercedes and a Lamborghini in the top 3 positions. Ben Barnicoat couldn't quite get up with them in 4th place overall, but it wasn't for want of trying. But starting down on the 11th position on the grid, there was plenty to be done for him. But Maro Engel picks up Lukas Stolz, the 2 Germans, very happy in life. And well, they should be. It's been a fantastic weekend for them. And all the better for the fact it came out of adversity when things just didn't seem to be going right for them yesterday morning. But in 2 days, 2 races, good to see Jules Gounon going in and giving some applause as well.
Well, he certainly kept the number 6 Mercedes on his toes in the opening stint, and I think in fairness, Petru and Moresco did a great job supporting and consolidating that 2nd position and keeping Norbert Siedler, a much more experienced driver, behind to take out that top 3 podium positions.
So great happiness for TalkSport WRT in the Spanish sunshine. This is the end of the sprint series for 2021, but in 2 weeks' time we're back in Spain for the final endurance round at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya just as I say, in 2 weeks' time. Then we'll find out whether Dries van Toor and Charles Weerts can make it the Sprint Cup, the overall trophy and the endurance trophy for 2021. But they were out of sorts this weekend. Unusual accidents from the pair of them. But wait for the smile, clambering out of the car that finished 3rd in the Pro-Am class. That wouldn't normally make them smile, but 3rd place, that was all that was required today in this, the final round. Miguel Ramos, the birthday boy, greeted, fingers up, the number 1, the Portuguese pairing with Enrique Chavez. So great happiness for the Barwell pair. So let's go down and hear the thoughts of our race winners, Maro Engel, who kicked it off, and Lukas Stolz with Gemma.
Maro, Luca joining us now as well. Congratulations, a double win this weekend.
Yeah, perfect day. Perfect end to the year. Amazing job by the whole team and this guy here. It was close both times at the pit exit, but I think we just got ahead and then head down and cleared the gap.
It was a Mercedes circuit this weekend, I think.
Yeah, definitely, but we saw the Audi as well quite performing good in race 1, at least on race pace. I think they had a bit tough luck in qualifying, but yeah, perfect weekend for us. Really feels good to be back on the podium, especially to earn a double win. The team deserve it. They worked really hard on Friday, Saturday. Yeah, just feels great.
Congratulations, well done.
Yes.
Well, they absolutely nailed that, it must be said. So really satisfying weekend for TalkSport WRT. The only disappointment for them was that their teammates Oscar Tunjo and Yusuf Oaxaca didn't come away with the Silver Cup honours as well, but they were already pretty much in the pockets of Alex Fontana. But it's extraordinary in a series as competitive to this is to have the driver in the second leg coming out just ahead of a rival. In the first race it was the McLaren, in the second race it was the 89 Mercedes. But first was their due reward.
Enrique, congratulations. The championship title finally is yours and Miguel's.
Yeah, the math didn't work out in the first race, but fortunately now with the P3 we became champions. It's amazing. Miguel did a good job bringing the car home. We finished P3, was enough for the points to clinch the title. Team did an amazing job, and now we work on the next race, the endurance, the last one, to try to win the overall championship. That's also a goal for us, but yeah, now we party because we are the sprint champions.
I think Miguel's already started. Well done, congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
Well, happiness personified there from Enrique Chavez, but as always with racing drivers, there's always another target to aim for, so they're looking to try and get the overall Pro-Am title across the entire season. So great season for them, for Barwell Motorsport and their blue Lamborghini. It's been an interesting couple of days here, John. First visit for the championship to the circuit. In the first race, it seemed very, very hard to do the overtaking, but this afternoon, that seemed to be flipped all around, flipped on its head. So let's take a look at the results at the end of the last Sprint Cup race of the year. Victory to Mauro Engel, who kicked off the TalkSport WRT number 6 Mercedes, and Lucas Stoltz, who brought it home. Then Jules Gougnard handed over to Petra Umburescu, very close when they came out of the pit stops, but then that TalkSport car pulled clear. And Albert Costa and Norbert Siedler pushed hard, got up to third place in their Lamborghini, just ahead of Ben Barnicat and Ollie Wilkinson, who really came charging through in the end, up to fourth place overall, to at least pick up some points as a sucker for them after their problems. But let's head down to hear from the driver who came here looking to wrap up the Silver Cup, and he has. It's Alex Fontana.
Boys, a fantastic result. Ricardo, you helped all the way along through the majority of the season, and Alex, now you are the champion in the Silver Cup.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted Ricardo with me today, because statistically I'm the leader, but we all know that I didn't do this alone. Obviously the team made a fantastic job. We didn't do everything perfect as drivers, or at least me. Then the team's also in the pit stop not always 100%, but we pushed all the way through. But I wanted to be here with Ricardo because obviously we did this together, so it's just a matter of points and numbers, but in reality we did this as a team.
Absolutely, Ricardo. You certainly had a big part to play in this.
Wow, it was quite hot in the car. Congrats to Alex for the silver championship. Like he said, of course, we kind of won it together. He did a great job in the first part. The mechanics, we had a technical issue on the pit stop. They reacted very well, so we didn't lose too much time, and was just, it's a great day, finally.
Well done, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it was certainly entertaining to watch, John, particularly when Ricardo Fellow decided he was on attack mode, and he was finding places where others couldn't to overtake.
Well, that's one of the attractive things about Ricardo Fellow. He makes motor racing look entertaining, but most of all exciting.
And it certainly was. So again, the high shot looking down at the cars for the last time in the Sprint Cup for 2021. It's been a great season, and I think looking across this year and last, just understanding the efforts that have been made to keep everyone racing with all the pandemic around us. It's hats off to all who've made it happen. And let's take a look at what is following. And here is the Ultimate Championship. We knew it was wrapped up at Brands Hatch, but the points advantage was brought right down by Engel and Stoltz with their 2 wins today. They closed within just a handful of points, 8.5 points of Vantor and Wirtz, who had been so far clear. They had a nightmare of a meeting here in Spain. But anyhow, that points advantage was enough. Raffaele Marcello and Timo Bogoslawski probably deserved more than third place, but the bad luck seemed to be with them from time to time when it really counted. But really, for Dries Vantor and Charles Wirtz, the only times they got a wheel wrong was when they came here, but the title was already in the bag.
Yeah, they very much had their nightmare in Valencia here this weekend, and it all went wrong whichever way you looked at it.
We've just heard from Alex Fontana, the victor in the Silver Cup of the Sprint Series. Frank Bird and Ria Chernito didn't come away, well, they came away with second place. Jim Plar and Konstantin Tereshchenko with that good finish, 6th place in this final race, moved up to 3rd. And Oscar Tunjo and Yusuf Oaxaca deserved so much more, but not finishing the first race today really cost them big time, and it wasn't their fault either, but that's just how racing can go. But Alex Fontana way clear in the Silver Cup class. And in Pro-Am, we've just heard from Miguel Ramos and Enrique Chaves, two very happy Portuguese drivers. But with Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann winning the class today, they came through from third when they got here to second, and really remarkably close. And out onto the podium come our top three finishers. In third place, it's the 163 Lamborghini crew, Norbert Siedler and his partner Albert Costa. Second place, of course, it's Petro Umbarescu and Jules Gounon. But here they come. Mauro Engel, followed by Lucas Stolz. They came here, they got confused, they found the pace, made it count in qualifying, and then they really made it count with those two wins. John.
I'm just wondering how much they really did get lost on Friday, and how much of it might have been just going through a process which they were determined to stick to, but then only show their hand when it was important, and that was in qualifying.
You could be right, but now the German national anthem. So for TalkSport WRT and their two German drivers, the German national anthem, and the trophies up, and then this glorious afternoon, autumnal sunshine here at the circuit. Ricardo Tormo waiting for the photos to be taken, and then the spraying of champagne for the last time in the 2021 Sprint Cup for the top three finishers. And I think obvious celebration for the WRT Mercedes racers, but I think huge satisfaction for Jules Gounon and Petro Umbarescu taking that second place. So it's going to be slippery underfoot for the Silver Cup and Pro-Am podiums that will follow, but it's been a great day and a much better second race than the first one, I would venture, John.
Yes, and I think part of that is because you had the pro drivers in all the cars essentially all taking the start, whereas in race one it was more the second driver or the AM drivers, and of course the grid was more of what I would call a traditional, the fastest drivers at the front and the rest down through the field.
But there were still a few fast faces down at the back. Don't forget Raffaele Marcello started from 23rd on the grid, and Alex Fontana started down way down below where you'd normally expect to find him. He was on the 11th row, so we did have some quick guys down
there
the
were some quick guys on the back, but their faces were out of place. They're not accustomed to being in that part of a grid, and it's not easy to adapt and adjust to finding your way past cars you never really meet other than when you're lapping them.
Well, indeed so, and we did have a couple of the faster drivers coming unstuck, and Dries van Tor most notably among that. A most untypical day for Team WRT's number 32 crew, who've run away as the outright champions. So looking at the team point of view, just mentioned Team WRT top by a tidy margin ahead of ACA ASP, Emil Frey Racing, the names you expect at the top, but with TalkSport WRT with just the one car closing in very quickly indeed. So they ended up much closer than the front runners. Now out onto the podium, we get the runners in the Silver Cup class. And third place in class in the Silver Cup should be the number 7 crew. Second place, it's the Mad Panda Motorsport crew coming out. Sorry, it's the 7 crew, of course. I should give them their proper name. It's the TalkSport WRT crew of Yusa Porhaco and Oscar Tunio, who got their disappointment from the first race behind them. Ezekiel Perez Compank and Rick Breukers. But the winners in the Silver Cup class, Jim Pla and Konstantin Tereshchenko. So smiles all round. So it's Mercedes on the overall podium, Mercedes on the Sprint Cup podium as well in the Silver Cup class.
El primer clasificado, el equipo AKSP de Konstantin Tereshchenko y Jim Pla, y al equipo español Mad Panda Motorsport de Ezequiel Pérez Compank y Rick Breukers. Escuchamos en honor del equipo vencedor.
So with the various prizes and trophies being allocated, the hats will come off for the national anthem. So for the Marseillaise for ACA ASP, the entrant of the winning team, and also the national anthem for Jules Gounon and Konstantin Tereshchenko, his Russian teammate, will smile along benignly as well, because they had a great race today and they came home in 6th place overall. So now the conclusion of the Silver Cup class podium. These were cars that finished in 6th, 7th and 8th positions overall. ACA ASP Mercedes, Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes, and the second of the Top Sport WRT Mercedes, completing the top 3 finishers in the Silver Cup. But hats off to Jules Gounon and Konstantin Tereshchenko. Really good afternoon racing for them here at the Circuit Ricardo Toma, just outside Valencia. So, beautiful scenes, great racing here at the Circuit Ricardo Tomo outside Valencia. Now the third of the 3 podiums. This is the one for the Pro-Am class, and this is the final round of the championship. And we do now know the identity of the winners of the Pro-Am class across the Sprint Cup. It's Barwell Motorsport. And they should be the first team out. Enrique Chavez and Miguel Ramos, they are the champions in the Sprint Cup in the Pro-Am class for 2021. They took 3rd place in this race. They did what they needed to do. They enjoyed the race early on. But Alexander West and Johnny Adam were too good for them this afternoon in their Aston Martin. And their 2nd win in the Pro-Am class for this year. Dominic Baumann and Valentin Pierberg will come out. Here they are in their grey and white overalls for SPS Automotive Performance. They're Mercedes top of the pile. So Mercedes won outright. They won the Silver Cup class this afternoon in the race, and also they took the Pro-Am race win as well in the final race of 2021 Sprint Series.
Ahí están con los trofeos. Escuchamos en honor del equipo vencedor el himno de Alemania.
So the German national anthem for the winning duo on the top step, or more importantly for their team, SPS Automotive Performance, who took the final Pro-Am win of the year. But the championship going to the drivers on the right, the drivers from Barwell Motorsports Lamborghini crew, Enrique Chavez, and the man who can celebrate for double reason. He's a birthday boy today. It's his 50th birthday. It's Miguel Ramos. I think there's going to be party time in the Ramos household this evening.
I wonder, will they be sharing a nice glass of, as we did last night, vermouth?
Well, it was a bit of a novelty and very much enjoyed. But when Miguel's got the sight back, having been blasted clean in the face with champagne, it's a price you have to pay for succeeding in motorsport. But will be taken in very good humour indeed. And Valentin Pierberg going over to clink bottles with them. He's happy. That was the 2nd Pro-Am class win for the tall German today. And doesn't want any champagne being dropped onto his car, so they'll move away from there. Well, let's go down to hear an interview with our overall Sprint Cup champions, Dries van Tor and Charles Weerts.
Boys, let's focus on the entire season. You are the Sprint Cup champions. Congratulations to you once again.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's a bit of a difficult weekend to realize it, but in the end we have to be very happy, and we can be very happy because we deserve it. But yeah, to finish it off on a weekend like this is of course not what we wanted, but yeah. The race is done, so we cannot really talk about it anymore, and we have to go on to the next one.
Absolutely. There's still plenty of reasons to celebrate, Charles.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we had a really good season in general. We've been all the time really consistent and consistently fast, and that's what I think was a key point for success. And yeah, as Dries pointed out, it's a bit of a shame to finish the season, at least the sprint season, like that, as yeah. It's just bad timing, let's say, because we would like to celebrate, but it's a bit hard as we are, of course, thinking about this race. But also, like Dries said, we should already focus on the next race and yeah, this will be Barcelona and hopefully get the title there.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that Barcelona race.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be interesting. We have to, well, to make it life easy for us, we just have to try and win, and the Ferrari has to finish outside of the top 5 or something. So it will not be easy, but we will give it our everything and try to make this here right and show that we deserve to be champions.
You absolutely did deserve it. Well done, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So still their sights on greater things. They want to land the Endurance Trophy as well. So the Silver Cup team classification, Emil Fry Racing got it in the end from Team WRT and TalkSport WRT. Had a bit of a trip up this weekend, but Emil Fry Racing, well done to the Swiss team with their Lamborghinis in the Silver Cup, and Alex Fontana, and shared most of the year with Ricardo Feller. That's what really did it for them. It's still the totting up of points hasn't finished for the year, because we've got that final round of the series, John, the endurance round in 2 weeks' time in Barcelona to look forward to. And I think Dries Vanthoor and Charles Weerts need a bit of a pick-up. Their shoulders are down at the moment.
Yes, they are, but of course remember that they were starting in a part of the field again that they weren't accustomed to.
Well, we've just heard from them. They're now on the top step. They're the overall champions in the overall Drivers' Championship in the Sprint Cup. We're going to have a representative from Team WRT, the overall Teams Championship in the Sprint Cup as well, and that's Team WRT as well. And Pierre Dieudonné up on the top step with them as well. It's a real team effort because it's the excellence right across the board, the pit stops, the everything, the preparation, the analysis, the engineering that gets teams to the top step. So for Team WRT, there is the Sprint Cup overall drivers trophy being held high, and it's not the first trophy for Team WRT. And also, of course, the name on it for last year, Vanthoor and Weerts. Sound familiar, John?
Yes, I mean, it's a great success. Obviously, slightly disappointing because of how events today unfolded, but that's a function of being out of your natural position. And of course, being, as the case of Dries Vanthoor, he was basically quicker than those cars directly ahead of him. He knew if he didn't do something, let's say high risk, he was going to be stuck behind them. And that's maybe what forced him to make that rather poorly judged attempt down the inside into turn 2. And then consequently the contact. And he's been given a penalty and a remand. And a remand's a bit, it's quite a serious offence to be given something as severe as that.
It certainly is, but again, just reinforcing the fact that this circuit, you have to grab whatever chance comes your way. But there's confirmation that the overall championship in the Sprint Cup, Team WRT winning it by a decent margin from ACA ASP and Emil Fry Racing, with honourable mention for TalkSport WRT, who were coming up fast on the rails, but alas for them, a few stumbles early on meant it didn't happen. Now the Silver Cup overall champion in the Sprint Cup for 2021, Alex Fontana and Emil Fry Racing are the champion team in the Silver Cup category as well. This is the category for drivers ranked no higher than silver. Silver, certainly no gold involved. And so the Swiss-Greek flags being waved for the dual nationality of Alex Fontana. He's won the championship, but again, a bit like Vanthoor and Weerts, this wasn't his greatest meeting, but it's across the course of a season that you collect the points. So I think Alex will look back with real pleasure about what he's achieved in 2021.
Yeah, it's over 5 events, but that's 10 races, 10 one-hour races. And they usually are, in terms of how quickly they go, it might be an hour race, but it seems to go in about the blink of an eye. As Alex Fontana, he just so rather half-heartedly sprays the champagne and just the one hand on the bottle and the thumb covering the neck.
But I think you look, John, for Alex Fontana in the number 14 Lamborghini, it has been a really strong season. Whenever we look at the times on the grids, they're so super close. And one little slip up, and as we saw here, if you get off the racing line, you could lose a couple of positions in the blink of an eye. And his partner, Ricardo Feller, certainly entertained us as he was hunting down the opposition and trying to pick it off. But for Alex Fontana, a championship, I think, well deserved. I think anybody who comes out with a championship in the GT series has done a very good job. The field is such a high level.
Well, I think it's very important, just before we go on to this next presentation, is the fact that the Emil Fry Racing team was virtually decimated at Spa 24 hours. 2 cars completely total, plus 1 in the test as well. So it's a great testament to that team.
Certainly is, and for Barwell Motorsport, for Miguel Ramos close to the camera and Enrique Chavez completely unfair. They're spraying the team with champagne when they didn't have any to hand, and so the pain is being spread. But I think this is going to be probably the happiest pit garage of the circuit here tonight. That has been wrapped up for Barwell Motorsport with their Lamborghini. It's been a very good year for them. But you're quite right about the setback for Emil Frey Racing. They have bounced back. But take a look at the glorious looking blue and yellow Lamborghini, and it seems to have been a team that's done its racing with a great deal of fun in 2021.
Well, I would call it's a family affair. And that's how I see Barwell Motorsport. Mark Lemmer and, of course, many more that work behind the scenes in the team. It is very much what I would call a family type of team rather than a totally corporate team, which is some of the other teams which are quasi-factory teams. This is a family affair.
Well, let's go back. So much has happened today and take a look at the highlights of the last Sprint Cup race of the year. From pole position, Mauro Engel leading away from Jules Gounon. Nice start from third place for Dominic Baumann, with Pla just nipping in front of him down to the first corner. So 4 Mercedes, first, second, third and fourth into the opening corner, chased by Christian Engelhardt. But Engelhardt in the Porsche soon started making moves, and he was to get past Baumann. Baumann, though, was in the Pro-Am class. He wasn't fighting against those runners. He wanted to stay as high as he could. But it was a tidy first part of the lap up to turn 2. It got a little bit tighter. There was contact, became messy. That was Artur Rougier going around Eddie Cheever as well in the mix, and Nelson Panciatici. Take a look, there's big squeeze. And in fact, on later replays, we found out there was a helping hand, and that was in the form of Dries Van Tor going up the inside. There were punishments issued thereafter. There was a little bit more busyness down the middle order. Always in the middle of it seemed to be the Gulf livery number 30 Audi as it picked its way forward. Now, it was Pro-Am action, very tight indeed, between the 188 Aston Martin of Alexander West and Johnny Adam and those around them. But they kept the cars on the island. This is the important thing, and this is having a look with Chris Froggatt trying to make the moves. A good race with Eddie Cheever. Really, the twists and turns are so tight here. And then there were some great moves. This is a moment where Jim Pla had just lost third place to the Porsche going through, and before he got to turn 14 he'd lost one more position as the Lamborghini made the move as well. That was the 163 car. Then it was the time of the pit stops. Mauro Engel out, Lucas Stoltz on board, and he got a lap or two under his belt when the 89 car came in, made its pit stop, and as Petro Morescu came onto the circuit, they were almost side by side. But as with the first pit stop, after the pit stops were made, it was the 6 Mercedes into the lead of the race. Ricardo Feller pushing on very hard and getting into the gravel. Further down the order, Timo Boguslawski seemed to have plenty of company as he was pushed around the circuit. This is riding on board with Feller, another position being gained, going past Frank Bird there up the hill to turn 2. But he was outside the top 10, just racing for fun and racing to make sure his teammate Alex Fontana could end up as the Silver Cup champion. There was Benjamin Goethe being given a bit of a shove wide, and it seemed to suddenly be very busy in the latter stages of the race, and it was almost like the gloves were off. But up front, as the Adrian Delina going a little bit wide, that was the moment the Porsche went wide enough to allow Barnicoat McLaren up to 4th place. But here is the race winner, 2 wins from 2 races. That was Lucas Stoltz finishing the job. Lights flashing for Petro Umberescu, 3rd place for Norbert Siedler, and the McLaren chased them over the line. And by finishing well, Pro-Am Championship went to Lamborghini. That's us. It's goodbye from Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia. It's been fun.